During a family road trip, my parents stopped the car and told me to get out because I wouldn't give my savings to my sister. My mom smirked and said, "Figure out how to get home on your own." I smiled and said, "Actually, I already have a ride." Their faces dropped when a fancy car showed up. We were about 5 hours into what was supposed to be a fun trip when my parents pulled over. The mood was tense. My dad gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. My mom sat with her arms crossed, smirking like she always did when she thought she was in control. I knew what was coming. "Get out," my mom said coldly. I didn't move at first. I just sat there, waiting for them to laugh or say it was a joke. But they weren't joking. "You're serious?" I asked, staying calm. My sister, sitting in the back, groaned, "Oh my God, just get out already." This all started because I refused to give my younger sister my savings. She had spent all her money, probably on shopping or some new hobby she'd soon get bored of. She always asked for my money, and my parents always sided with her. But this time, I said no. And now here we were. My dad turned to glare at me. "You want to be selfish. Fine, you're an adult. Figure out how to get home on your own." My mom's smirk grew. "Let's see how independent you really are." My sister giggled. They thought they had me. They thought leaving me on the side of the road, hours from home, with just my phone and wallet, would make me panic. They thought I'd beg to come back. But I wasn't scared. Unlike them, I had a plan. I smiled and said, "Actually, I already have a ride." My parents looked confused. Just then, a sleek black luxury car, one my family could never afford, pulled up behind us. My mom's smirk disappeared. My dad's jaw tightened. My sister looked shocked for the first time ever. The car door opened and out stepped someone they never expected. That's when everything changed. Nathan stepped out, a man my parents didn't know. He was rich, the kind of rich my parents pretended not to care about. But unlike my family, he respected me. He walked around the car, adjusting his expensive suit, looking like someone who never had to worry about money. He glanced at my parents, then at me, and said, "You ready?" I nodded and grabbed my bag. My mom snapped. "Who is this?" I shrugged. "A friend." My dad leaned forward, glaring. "What kind of friend?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I took my time getting out of the car, stretching like I wasn't just kicked out by my own family. I turned to them, enjoying how my mom's smug look turned to worry. Then I dropped the bomb. "Nathan owns the company I work for." Silence. My dad looked like he'd been slapped. My mom stared at Nathan's suit, the car, then back at me. My sister wasn't smirking anymore. "You work for him?" my mom asked, like it was impossible. "No," Nathan said sharply. "She doesn't work for me. She works with me." My parents' faces tightened. They had always treated me like I was nothing, like I was just there to give money to my sister. They never cared about my career or what I'd achieved. I had worked hard to get where I was. I had connections and options. Now they realized they couldn't control me anymore. Nathan checked his watch. "We should go," he said casually, like this wasn't the most awkward moment ever. I smiled. "Right." I turned to my parents, who were still staring at me like I was a stranger. "You wanted me to figure out how to get home on my own," I said. "Well, I did." My mom snapped. "Don't be dramatic. Just get back in the car." I laughed. "Oh no, you made your choice. Now live with it." Nathan opened the car door for me. As I got in, I saw my parents in the rearview mirror. They looked furious. They had lost. But they didn't know I wasn't done yet. As the car drove off, I let out a breath. Nathan glanced at me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just thinking." But really, I was angry, not because they left me, I expected that, but because they thought they could throw me away like I was nothing, like I only mattered if I was useful to them. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As we drove, my phone started blowing up with messages. I expected angry texts from my mom or maybe my dad, but I didn't expect a text from my aunt. "Aunt Lydia, are you okay? Your mom just called me, ranting about you leaving with some rich guy." Aunt Lydia sounded nervous. I stared at my phone. Nervous? My mom didn't get nervous. She got angry or controlling. But nervous? That was new. Nathan looked at my phone. "Something wrong?" I hesitated, then handed it to him. He read the messages and said, "Interesting, she's panicking." I frowned. Why would she panic? She won. Nathan gave me a look like I'd said something silly. "No, she didn't," he said. She just realized she lost control. That's when it hit me. My whole life, my parents made me feel like I needed them, like I could only succeed because of them. But now, they'd proven I didn't. I leaned back smiling. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about what I might do next. For the next 2 days, I ignored their calls. The more I ignored them, the more desperate their messages became. My dad started with anger, calling me ungrateful, selfish, and a disappointment. My mom tried guilt, saying I was hurting the family. My sister, she didn't text me at all. That was a red flag. My sister loved to rub things in my face. If she wasn't texting, something was wrong. I decided to dig deeper. Here's something my parents didn't know. I had more resources than they thought. Nathan wasn't just my mentor. He had connections. He could get financial records, background checks, everything. So I asked him for help. What he found shocked me. The big twist. Why they really wanted my money. My parents weren't just trying to take my savings for my sister. They were in serious debt, tens of thousands of dollars. Credit cards maxed out, unpaid loans, and the biggest shock, a second mortgage on the house they never told me about. And the worst part, they used my name for one of the loans. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Nathan calmly handed me the documents. You could press charges, he said. This is fraud. Fraud my own parents had stolen from me. Suddenly, everything made sense. Why they always pushed me for money. Why they didn't want me checking financial documents. Why my mom looked nervous when I left with Nathan. She knew. She knew if I found out, I could ruin them. Now I had a choice. I could confront them, demand the money back, or destroy everything. I stared at the papers, gripping them tightly. My whole life, they treated me like I was nothing, like I was disposable. Now it was their turn to feel powerless. I looked at Nathan. What's the best way to make them suffer? He smirked, and that's when we made our plan. For years, I was their backup plan, their safety net. They used me, lied to me, and when I stopped being useful, they threw me aside. Now it was my turn. I wasn't just going to get my money back. I was going to make sure they lost everything. I didn't say a word to them. I didn't let them know I knew. I let them panic. And oh, did they panic? My phone was flooded with messages. My mom went from guilt-tripping to desperate. My dad, who always acted so tough, even called Nathan, the man they'd mocked days before, asking to talk to me. Nathan, being petty, put him on speakerphone. Look, my dad said, sounding tense. We need to talk. You can't just run off like this. Nathan smirked. She didn't run off. You kicked her out. Silence. I could almost hear my dad grinding his teeth. That's not the point. This is family business. She needs to come back. I finally spoke. Why? He hesitated. Because. He took a deep breath. Because we're struggling, okay? You don't understand how hard things have been for us. We just needed some help, and you just left. This was good. They still thought they could control me, that I hear family and come running back like a good little ATM. Too bad for them, I wasn't that person anymore. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. Nathan laughed. You're more patient than I am. I smiled. They're about to get what they deserve. First, I locked down my credit. No more loans in my name. No more sneaky credit cards. Then, I went to the bank and reported the fraud. I filed a police report. I handed over all the documents Nathan had found, proving my parents took out loans in my name. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought I wouldn't fight back. Oh, they were about to learn how wrong they were. A week later, my mom called, frantic. They're saying we committed fraud. What did you do? I leaned back, holding back a laugh. What did I do? I repeated. You mean what you did? Her voice cracked. We're going to lose the house. I let that sink in. They were losing everything. Their debt had caught up to them. The loans, the house, the unpaid bills, it all fell apart at once. And without me to bail them out, they had nowhere to go. I smiled. Well, I said sweetly, maybe my sister can help you. My mom snapped. She doesn't have any money. You know that. Oh, the irony. I stayed quiet, letting her panic. Then she yelled, you can't do this to us. We're your parents. I tilted my head. Oh no, you did this to yourselves. Then I hung up. And just like that, I was free. A month later, my aunt texted me. Aunt Lydia, they moved in with your sister. The bank took the house. They're miserable. I stared at the message, then smiled. For the first time in my life, I didn't care. No guilt, no regret. They tried to ruin me, but in the end, they only ruined themselves. And I was finally free.
The cake sat untouched in front of me, 30 candles flickering in the dim light of our family's restaurant. The same restaurant I'd spent countless nights saving from bankruptcy, sacrificing my personal life to keep our legacy alive. I should have known better. I'm sorry, what did you just say? I stared at my father across the table, certain I'd misheard him. You're out, Trisha. Dad's voice was cold, clinical. We're restructuring the business, and you're no longer needed. My mother sat beside him, her hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes fixed on the tablecloth. The birthday banner above their heads suddenly felt like a cruel joke. I just saved this place, I said, my voice barely a whisper. 3 months of working 18-hour days. I brought in new investors, modernized our systems. And now we can handle it from here, Dad cut in. You've always been too ambitious, too controlling. This is a family business, not your personal project. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that made my mother flinch. Family business? I am family. Not anymore. The words hit like a physical blow. We've already had the paperwork drawn up. You'll be compensated for your shares, of course. My best friend Sarah, who'd been sitting silently beside me, grabbed my hand under the table. I could feel her trembling with anger. Owen, she started, but I squeezed her hand to stop her. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. The compensation package is quite generous. My mother finally spoke, still not meeting my eyes. You should be grateful. Grateful? I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. I gave up everything for this place, my relationships, my dreams of starting my own business. And now you're free to pursue them, Dad said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. Happy birthday, Trisha. The restaurant had emptied out. Our regular customers had sensed the tension and made quick exits. Only my cousin Stacy remained at the bar, pretending to clean glasses while watching the drama unfold. You know what? I straightened my spine, smoothed down my dress. Thank you. Thank you for showing me exactly who you are, on today of all days. I grabbed my purse, leaving the envelope untouched. Sarah stood with me, her face flushed with protective anger. Trisha, my mother called out as I turned to leave. Don't make this difficult. Just take the money and keep it, I said, not turning back. Consider it my final investment in this place. Let's see how long it lasts without me. The night air hit my face as I pushed through the door, Sarah right behind me. I made it halfway down the block before my legs started shaking. I can't believe they did this, Sarah said, pulling me into a fierce hug. After everything you've done, they think they're so clever, I whispered, my mind already racing ahead. They have no idea what I'm capable of. A text lit up my phone. Enzo, my mentor from business school. Heard what happened. Come see me tomorrow. It's time. I smiled, despite the tears threatening to fall. For 3 years, I'd been quietly learning from Enzo, developing business plans, making connections. I'd known somehow that this day would come. You're planning something, Sarah said, studying my face. I know that look. They want me gone? Fine. but they have no idea what they've just unleashed. I wiped my eyes, straightened my shoulders. I'm done being the dutiful daughter. What are you going to do? I thought about the business plan hidden in my apartment, the investors who'd been impressed by my work at the restaurant, the network I'd built while my parents weren't paying attention. I'm going to build something so successful it'll make their precious restaurant look like a lemonade stand. And when they come crawling back, because they will, I'll remember this night. Sarah linked her arm through mine as we walked toward the subway. Happy birthday, Trisha. Something tells me this is going to be your year after all. Behind us, the restaurant's lights dimmed, and I didn't look back. They thought they were writing me off, but they'd just written the first chapter of their own downfall. I was done being the person they thought I was. The obedient daughter, the silent partner, the one who always put family first. It was time to show them who I really am. You've been planning this for years, haven't you? Enzo leaned back in his leather chair, a knowing smile on his face. His corner office overlooked the city skyline, a view I'd always envied. Let's just say I learned from the best. I handed him my business plan, watching as he flipped through the pages. Everything's ready. I just needed the right moment. And getting disowned on your birthday was that moment? He raised an eyebrow. They did me a favor. I stood and walked to the window. No more pretending, no more holding back. Your market analysis is solid, Enzo said, tapping the document. And these investor contacts? You've been busy. I had to be careful. If my father had found out, he'd have sabotaged you. Enzo finished my thought. Speaking of which, have you seen this? He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was a local business news article. Bond family restaurant chain announces major expansion plans. They're using my investments for expansion? I laughed. They won't last 6 months without proper management. Which is exactly why we need to move fast. Enzo grabbed his phone. I'm calling Marcus at Verdi Capital. He's been asking about you since that charity gala. While Enzo made the call, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Your mom's been calling me. Wants to know if you're being reasonable yet. Should I block her? I typed back, let her call. The more they think I'm devastated, the better. Marcus can meet tomorrow, Enzo announced. And he's bringing 2 other potential investors. That fast? Your reputation precedes you, Trisha. Word got around about how you turned that restaurant around. People noticed. A knock at the door interrupted us. Wade, one of Enzo's junior associates, stepped in with a stack of papers. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. He handed me a printout. Your father's loan applications got leaked. They're leveraging everything they own for this expansion. I scanned the documents, my heart racing. They're using the house as collateral? Are they insane? Your father always did think he was invincible, Enzo said. Wade, how did you get these? I asked. He grinned. Let's just say I know someone at the bank who owes me a favor. Also, I want in on whatever you're planning. I looked at Enzo, who nodded. Wade's one of our best. You'll need a strong team. Okay, I said. But this stays between us. I'm going to need office space, somewhere private. Use my startup incubator, Enzo offered. 10th floor's empty. No one will look for you there. Perfect. I gathered my things. Wade, can you start Monday? Already gave my notice here. He grinned. Enzo knew you'd say yes. As I headed for the elevator, Enzo called after me. Trisha, remember, revenge is best served profitable. The next morning, I sat across from Marcus and his investment partners in a sleek conference room. My hands were steady as I presented my vision. A modern take on traditional cuisine with a tech-forward approach to delivery and customer experience, I explained. Everything my father's business isn't, and you can guarantee no conflict with your family's ventures? Marcus asked. My family made it very clear I'm no longer their concern. I met his gaze. Check the paperwork. I'm legally free to compete. That's all I needed to hear. Marcus slid a term sheet across the table. We're in. $5 million with an option for 3 more in 6 months. My phone buzzed again. Stacy this time. Your dad's going crazy. 3 managers quit this week. He's blaming your sabotage, but I know you're not even involved. Yet. I smiled, turning back to Marcus. When can we start? How's tomorrow? That evening, I stood in my new office space, empty except for a desk and chair. Wade was setting up computers, while Sarah arranged takeout containers on a folding table. To new beginnings. Sarah raised her coffee cup. And to your parents eventually eating their words. They won't know what hit them, Wade added. I looked out at the city lights, thinking of my father's expansion plans, built on loans he couldn't repay, of my mother's desperate calls to Sarah, of the empire I was about to build. No, I said softly. They won't. My phone lit up with another notification, a business alert about my father's company. I opened it, then smiled. What is it? Sarah asked. Their first new location just failed health inspection. Looks like they're off to a great start without me. The pieces were falling into place faster than I'd imagined, and this was just the beginning. Your father just fired another manager. Stacy slid into the booth across from me at a quiet cafe, far from our family's usual haunts. That's 4 in 3 months. How bad is it? I stirred my coffee, trying to keep my voice neutral. Bad. She glanced around before continuing. The new locations are hemorrhaging money. The original restaurant's losing regular customers, and... She hesitated. And? They're talking about selling the house. Your mom was crying in the office yesterday. I'd been expecting this, but it still hit hard. That house held 18 years of memories. Holidays, birthdays, family dinners. Before everything went wrong. Have they tried reaching out to you? Stacy asked. Mom leaves voicemails. Dad sends formal emails through his lawyer. I pulled out my phone, showing her the latest message. As a gesture of goodwill, we're offering to reinstate your position as junior manager. Can you believe that? Stacy snorted. Do they know about my company? No, we've kept everything under wraps. I smiled. The press release goes out next week. They're going to lose it. Stacy's eyes sparkled. Especially when they see the investor list. My phone buzzed. Wade calling. Sorry, I need to take this. Wade? What's up? You need to see this. Your father just applied for another emergency loan. The bank denied it. I ended the call looking at Stacy. It's happening faster than I thought. Trisha. She reached across the table. I know they hurt you, but they're still family. Family? I stood up, throwing cash on the table. Come with me, I want to show you something. 20 minutes later, we walked into my company's headquarters. The space hummed with energy. Developers testing our ordering platform. Chefs experimenting in the test kitchen. Marketing teams reviewing campaign materials. This is what I built in 3 months, I told Stacy as we toured the floor. While they were running their business into the ground, I was creating something new. Wade intercepted us by the test kitchen. Perfect timing. The first location's ready for inspection. Location? Stacy asked. We're opening 6 restaurants next month, I explained. Modern cuisine, tech-integrated ordering, delivery optimization, everything Dad refused to consider. Ms. Bond? A young chef approached with a tablet. The new menu items are ready for tasting. As we sampled dishes, Stacy grew quieter. Finally, she set down her fork. They have no idea what's coming, do they? No one does. I checked my watch. Except, the elevator doors opened and Sarah walked in with Marcus and 2 other investors. The numbers look fantastic, Marcus announced, shaking my hand. We're doubling our investment. Your marketing strategy is brilliant. Thank you. I turned to Stacy. Want to stay for the meeting? See what a properly run business looks like? Before she could answer, her phone rang. She checked the screen and paled. It's your dad. Put it on speaker. Stacy? My father's voice sounded strained. Is Trisha with you? No, Uncle Owen. I'm at work. If you see her, Tell her we should talk. The business. We could use her input. I motioned for Stacy to end the call. They're desperate, Sarah observed. Good. I pulled up our launch timeline on the conference room screen. Because in exactly 2 weeks, they'll learn just how badly they underestimated me. Trisha, Stacy said quietly, what you've built here, it's incredible. But are you sure you want to what? Succeed? Show them exactly what they threw away? I faced her. They didn't just fire me, Stacy. They disowned me. On my birthday, after I saved their business. I know, but no buts. I softened my tone. I appreciate you looking out for them. But they made their choice. Now they can live with the consequences. My phone lit up with a news alert. Local restaurant chain faces multiple health code violations. 3 locations temporarily closed. Looks like those consequences are already starting, Wade commented. I forwarded the article to my father's email with a single line. Need my input yet? Stacy read the message over my shoulder and whistled. You're really doing this. Watch me. I turned to the room. Let's go over the launch plan one more time. Everything needs to be perfect. As the team gathered around the conference table, I caught my reflection in the window. I barely recognized myself. Gone was the dutiful daughter, replaced by someone stronger, someone who wouldn't back down. My phone buzzed again. A text from my father. We need to talk, please. I showed it to Sarah, who squeezed my hand. Ready for this? I've been ready since the day they threw me away. I deleted the message without responding. Now, let's make some history. I wasn't surprised when they showed up at my office. What surprised me was how small they looked, sitting in my sleek reception area like lost tourists in a foreign country. Your father and mother are here, Wade announced, barely concealing his smirk. Should I tell them you're in a meeting? No. I straightened my designer blazer. Let's get this over with. They stood when I entered. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed and Dad's usual confident posture had crumbled into something approaching defeat. Nice office, Dad said, attempting his businessman voice. Very modern. Thanks, it's amazing what you can accomplish in 3 months when you're not being held back. I gestured to my conference room. Shall we? Mom touched my arm as I passed. I stepped away smoothly, pretending not to notice her hurt expression. Trisha, Dad started once we were seated. We've been trying to reach you. I know. I got all 27 voicemails, 43 emails, and that pathetic offer to make me junior manager again. I placed my tablet on the table. What do you want? We need your help, Mom burst out. The business is failing. I pulled up their financial records on the conference room screen. 3 closed locations, 2 pending health code violations, and a mountain of debt. Did I miss anything? Dad's face reddened. How did you get those numbers? I have friends at the bank. Unlike you, I build relationships, not burn them. I leaned back. You have 10 minutes. Make them count. They exchanged glances before Dad spoke. We want to propose a partnership. Your expertise, our brand recognition. Your brand? I laughed. Your brand is toxic. Your Yelp reviews are a disaster. Your staff turnover rate is approaching 100%. We can fix that, Mom pleaded. Together, as a family. Family? I stood up, my calm facade cracking. You disowned me. On my birthday. Remember? We were wrong, Dad said quietly. We see that now. No, you see that you're desperate. I pulled up another document. You've mortgaged the house, maxed out your credit lines. You're 1 bad month away from bankruptcy. What do you want? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Name your price. I pressed a button on my tablet. Wade entered with a folder. Total surrender, I said. Sign over the entire business to me. I'll assume your debts, retain any staff worth keeping, and rebuild from the ground up. That's everything we have, Mom protested. No, it's everything you have left. There's a difference. I slid the papers across the table. Sign now, and I'll make sure you keep the house. Refuse, and I'll wait until after the bankruptcy. Your choice. Dad reached for the papers with trembling hands. You planned this. I learned from the best. I smiled coldly. You taught me that business isn't about family, remember? As they read through the documents, Sarah poked her head in. Your 2:00 is here. The press is waiting in the lobby. Press? Mom looked up sharply. Did I forget to mention? I turned the tablet to show them my company's website. We're launching next week. 6 locations, state-of-the-art technology, full media coverage. 6 locations? Dad's face went pale. That's impossible. Actually, it's quite possible when you have competent management and $30 million in venture capital. I checked my watch. 5 minutes left. Are you signing? Mom started crying silently. Dad's hand shook as he picked up the pen. One more thing, I added as he was about to sign. You'll both need to attend the launch event. Smile for the cameras. Show everyone that the family business is evolving. You're enjoying this? Mom accused. Honestly? Yes. I met her gaze. Consider it payback for my 30th birthday party. At least I'm giving you something in return. The signatures took less than a minute. Wade whisked the papers away for processing while I stood. The press release goes out in an hour. Wade will brief you on what to say. I headed for the door. Oh, and Mom? That necklace you're wearing? The one Grandma left me in her will? I'll need that back. Trisha, please, she began. You can mail it. I'm busy for the next few weeks launching my empire. I paused at the door. By the way, how does it feel? Being on the other side of a hostile takeover? Neither answered. I didn't expect them to. Outside the conference room, Sarah waited with a concerned expression. You okay? Never better. I straightened my shoulders. Is the press ready? They're waiting. But Trisha, was all that necessary? I thought about my birthday cake, the cruel words, the months of silence. Yes, I said simply. It was. Now let's go make some headlines. Rising star revolutionizes family business. Local restaurant chain gets modern makeover. The headline splashed across every local news outlet, accompanied by photos of me cutting ribbons at our new locations. My parents stood in the background of each shot, their forced smiles fooling no one. Your interview's trending, Wade announced, dropping a stack of newspapers on my desk. Twitter's calling you the restaurant queen and business badass of the year. What about the numbers? I asked, scanning the morning reports. Opening week revenue is triple our projections. The app has 50,000 downloads already. And he grinned. Your father's old customers are jumping ship to us. My office door burst open as Stacy rushed in. Have you seen what your mom's doing? She thrust her phone at me. On the screen was my mother's social media post. Heartbroken by my daughter's hostile takeover. A mother's love betrayed for profit. Seriously? I laughed. She's playing the victim card? The comments are brutal, Wade noted, scrolling through his phone. But not for you. Everyone's calling them out for disowning you first. My desk phone lit up. Enzo calling. Turn on channel 7, he said when I answered. Now. Wade grabbed the remote, and my father's face filled the wall-mounted screen. He was standing outside our flagship location, speaking to a reporter. While we're proud of Trisha's success, he was saying, we want to make it clear that this was a planned transition, not a hostile. Is that why you disowned her on her 30th birthday? The reporter interrupted. Part of the plan? The camera caught my father's face falling. That's a private family matter. Sources say you fired her after she saved the business from bankruptcy. The reporter pressed. Then tried to rehire her as a junior manager when the company started failing again. Care to comment? I muted the TV. Get me that reporter's contact info. I want to send flowers. Already done. Wade smirked, along with an exclusive interview offer. Sarah walked in with coffee and more news. The investors are ecstatic. Marcus wants to fast-track the expansion to other states. Perfect timing. I pulled up our project timeline. Because I just got an interesting email from the bank. Seems our competitors are struggling to meet their loan payments. Your parents? Stacy asked. No, the River District restaurants. Their owner's looking to sell. I smiled. Guess who's making an offer? You're not done, are you? Sarah studied my face. This is bigger than your parents now. It always was. I stood and walked to the window. They just helped me see what I'm capable of. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Please, can we talk? Just us? Before I could respond, Wade interrupted. Your 11 o'clock is here, the food critic from the Times. Send them to the test kitchen. I'll be right there. I turned to Stacy. Want to watch me charm another influencer? She hesitated. Actually, I wanted to tell you something. I quit. The family restaurant? No, my job at the bank. I was wondering... She straightened her shoulders. Is that operations manager position still open? I studied my cousin's face. You want to work for me? After everything? I want to work for someone who knows what they're doing. She met my gaze. Someone who values talent over loyalty. The irony, Sarah muttered. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mom. Your father's not eating. Not sleeping, please. Ignore it, Wade advised. They're trying to manipulate you. No, I replied. They're realizing actions have consequences. I turned to Stacy. The job's yours. Start Monday. The test kitchen was buzzing when we arrived. The food critic was sampling our fusion dishes while photographers captured every angle. Ms. Bond. The critic stood to greet me. Fascinating operation you have here. Tell me, how does it feel to be the youngest restaurateur to successfully integrate AI with traditional cuisine? It feels like validation, I answered, noting my father watching from the doorway. Sometimes people underestimate you. The trick is to let them. And the family angle? Your parents seem uncomfortable with your success. I smiled directly at my father. Change is always uncomfortable, especially when you're stuck in the past. He turned and walked away, shoulders slumped. For a moment, I felt a twinge of something. Not regret exactly. More like recognition of the torch being passed, whether they liked it or not. Your next appointment's here, Wade whispered. The Restaurant Association wants to discuss your keynote speech. Tell them I'll be right there. I watched my father's retreating figure. And Wade? Send my mother a message. Tell her I'll meet her for coffee tomorrow. Are you sure? Yes. I straightened my jacket. It's time they understood. This isn't about revenge anymore. This is about legacy. My legacy. The food critic raised her glass. To the future of dining? No, I corrected, raising mine. To the future of everything. The coffee shop was neutral territory, not one of my restaurants or my family's. Mom sat at a corner table, fidgeting with her cup, looking smaller than I remembered. You're not wearing Grandma's necklace, I noted, sliding into the seat across from her. I shipped it to your office yesterday. She reached for my hand. I pulled back, opening my laptop instead. I have 30 minutes, I said. Make them count. Your father's not well, she started. The doctors say it's stress. If this is another guilt trip, I'm leaving. I met her eyes. You both made your choices. We made a mistake. Her voice cracked. We were proud and stupid and now you're facing the consequences. I turned my laptop to show her our latest numbers. See these? This is what happens when you let talent flourish instead of crushing it. The door chimed and Stacy walked in with a folder. Right on cue. The River District deal is done, she announced, purposefully loud enough for nearby tables to hear. We own all 6 locations. Mom's face paled. 6 more? But that means we now control 40% of the city's upscale dining market. I smiled. And we're just getting started. Trisha, please. Mom grabbed my wrist. Your father needs to feel like he still has some control. His pride. I yanked my hand away. What about my pride? When you both humiliated me at my own birthday party. Stacy sat down beside me. Aunt Martina, you should see her in action. She's incredible. The staff respects her, the customers love her. Of course they do. Mom interrupted. She's my daughter. I always knew she was special. No. I stood up. You don't get to claim credit now. You don't get to act proud after what you did. Ms. Bond? A young woman approached our table tentatively. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say, your story inspired me to leave my toxic family business. I start MBA classes next month. Congratulations. I smiled warmly. Send your resume when you graduate. We're always looking for brave, independent thinkers. The woman beamed and walked away. Mom watched the interaction with tears in her eyes. You've become everything we feared, she whispered. You mean successful? Independent? Better than you expected? No, cold. Like us. Stacy snorted. Cold? Do you know what she did last week? Paid for her assistant's mother's cancer treatment? Set up a scholarship fund for culinary students. Cold people don't do that. My phone buzzed. Wade calling. The magazine photographer is here for the under 40 feature. Tell them I'll be there in 20. I gathered my things. We're done here. Wait. Mom reached into her bag. Your father wanted you to have this. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a photo. Me at 5 years old, standing on a chair in our old kitchen, helping Dad make pasta. Remember that day? Mom asked softly. You said you wanted to cook forever. I remember what he said back, I replied. Cooking is fine, but running the business is what matters. Well, guess what? I'm doing both. Better than he ever did. He knows that. We both do. She stood up. That's why it hurts so much. Good. I tucked the photo into my bag. Now you know how I felt. As I turned to leave, she called out, He's selling his wine collection. The one he spent 30 years building, to pay the medical bills. I paused. Send the bills to my office. I'll take care of them. Why? Because I'm not like you. I looked back at her. I don't destroy the things I love just because I'm angry. Outside, Stacy caught up with me. That was intense. It was necessary. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Dad. They needed to see the difference between power and leadership. The wine collection thing got to you, didn't it? I thought about those bottles, how Dad used to let me read the labels when I was little, teaching me about regions and vintages. Have Wade track down the buyers, I said finally. Buy everything back, store it at my house. Going soft? Stacy teased. No. I hailed a cab. Just remembering something Enzo told me. True power isn't about what you can take. It's about what you choose to give. And what are you choosing to give? I thought about the medical bills in my bag, the wine collection, the photo of a little girl who just wanted to cook forever. A lesson, I said. In grace. The cab pulled up and I could see Mom still watching from the coffee shop window. Let's go, I told Stacy. We have an empire to run. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, the woman who revolutionized the restaurant industry in just 6 months. The spotlight hit me as I walked onto the stage at the Women in Business conference. 300 faces stared back, phones recording, eager to hear my story. Thank you, I began, setting aside the prepared speech. But instead of talking about profit margins and market expansion, let's talk about something more important, the cost of being underestimated. In the front row, Sarah gave me an encouraging nod. Behind her, I spotted my father slipping into the back of the auditorium. He hadn't been invited. 6 months ago, I was disowned on my 30th birthday. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My crime? Being too ambitious, too controlling, too much. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably Wade with another update about our latest acquisition. It could wait. They thought they were punishing me. Instead, they set me free. I paced the stage, making eye contact with young women in the audience. How many of you have been told to dim your light? To play small? To know your place? Hands shot up across the room. In the back, my father shifted uncomfortably. Here's what they don't tell you about success, I continued. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. A young woman in the third row was crying silently, nodding along. I focused on her. In 6 months, I built a restaurant empire that's now worth $90 million. But that's not the interesting part. I smiled. The interesting part is what I learned about power. The door opened again. My mother entering this time, standing next to my father. Real power isn't in taking control. It's in lifting others up. I gestured to Stacy, who stood proudly in her operations manager suit. It's in paying for an employee's medical bills, creating scholarships, building something bigger than yourself. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Last week, I bought back my father's wine collection. I saw him stiffen in surprise. Not because I had to, but because sometimes grace is more powerful than revenge. Sarah was giving me the 2-minute warning signal, but I wasn't finished. To every woman who's been told she's too much, too ambitious, too loud, too demanding, I say this. Let them underestimate you. Let them dismiss you. Then build something so magnificent they can't ignore you. The applause started before I finished speaking, rolling through the auditorium like thunder. In the back, my parents remained still, watching. Questions? The moderator asked as the clapping died down. Dozens of hands shot up. I pointed to the crying woman in the third row. How do you deal with the guilt? She asked. Of surpassing your family? I replaced guilt with gratitude, I answered. They taught me exactly who I didn't want to be. Another hand. What's next for your company? We're expanding nationally, I announced, and launching a mentorship program for women entrepreneurs. Applications open next month. The questions continued until Sarah gave me the cutoff signal. As I left the stage, Wade rushed up. The acquisition papers are ready, he whispered. And you've got 17 interview requests. Handle the interviews, I told him. I need to do something else first. I found my parents by the exit, looking lost among the crowd of young professionals. Your wine collection is at my house, I said to my father. You can pick it up anytime. Why? He asked, his voice rough. Because I remember you teaching me about vintages when I was 5. Some things are worth preserving. My mother touched my arm, and this time I didn't pull away. That speech, she said. You really meant it? About grace? Come to the office tomorrow, I replied. Both of you. We should talk about your roles in the company's future. Roles? My father's eyes widened. You'd still want us involved? In advisory positions only, I clarified, with very clear boundaries. Before they could respond, a group of young women surrounded me, asking for photos and advice. As I posed with them, I caught my father watching with what looked like pride. Real pride this time, not the possessive kind I'd grown up with. Ms. Bond? One of the women asked, would you mentor me? I looked at my parents, then back at the hopeful face before me. That's exactly what I'm here for. Later, as I left the conference center, Sarah caught up with me. So, advisory roles for your parents? Are you sure? Sometimes the biggest power move is extending an olive branch, I said, watching my parents walk to their car. Besides, they're about to learn something important. What's that? That the daughter they underestimated is now their boss. I smiled. And I'm a much better leader than they ever were. The letter arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, hand-delivered to my office. The return address was from one of our original family restaurant's oldest customers. Dear Trisha, it began. Today I had lunch at both restaurants, your parents' original location and your new flagship store. The difference wasn't just in the food or service, it was in the spirit. Wade knocked and entered as I was reading. The advisory board meeting starts in 10 minutes. Your parents are already here. Let them wait, I said, continuing to read. Your father changed when he took over from his father. The letter went on. I watched him become harder, colder. But you've done the opposite. You've built something warm, inclusive, revolutionary. Thank you for showing us all a better way. I folded the letter and headed to the conference room. Through the glass walls, I could see my parents sitting stiffly among my executive team. Dad was wearing a visitor badge, a small but significant reminder of the new hierarchy. Good morning, I announced, entering the room. Let's talk about next quarter's projections. Before we start, my father interrupted, standing. I have something to say. Sarah tensed beside me, but I nodded for him to continue. I've been watching, he said. How you run things, how your staff looks at you, how customers rave about the experience. He swallowed hard. You've created something I never could, because I was too afraid to change. Owen, my mother warned, but he continued. The advisory position you offered, I don't deserve it. He pulled out a folder. Instead, I have a proposal. Inside was a deed to the original restaurant. We want to donate it, he explained. Turn it into a training center for your mentorship program, if you'll have it. The room fell silent. I studied the document, then looked at my mother. And do you agree with this? It was my idea, she said softly. We can't change the past, but we can help shape the future. Stacy, now my head of operations, spoke up. The location would be perfect for the culinary school we've been planning. There's one condition, my father added. I want to teach there, not manage, teach. Share what I know about traditional cooking while learning about new methods from your team. I thought about that photo of 5-year-old me, standing on a chair in his kitchen, learning to make pasta. Okay, I said, but I have conditions too. I pulled up our latest blueprint on the screen, a modern teaching facility with both traditional and high-tech kitchens. First, we name it after Grandma. She always believed in combining old wisdom with new ideas. My mother wiped away a tear as I continued. Second, you both take actual cooking classes from our chef team. No shortcuts, no special treatment. And third, Dad asked, you come to Sunday dinner at my house, every week, to see your wine collection and... I paused. To be family again, on my terms. He sat down heavily, nodding. Your terms. Wade cleared his throat. Should I call the PR team? This would make a great story. No, I interrupted. Some things aren't for publicity. Some things are just about healing. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table as I pulled out the customer's letter. Listen to this, I said, reading it aloud. When I finished, my father had tears in his eyes. You proved us wrong, he admitted. About everything. No, I corrected him. I proved myself right. There's a difference. The meeting continued, but something had shifted. As we discussed expansion plans and training programs, my parents didn't try to dominate or control. They listened, offered suggestions when asked, and watched with growing understanding as their daughter commanded the room. Afterward, in my office, Sarah found me staring at the original restaurant sign through my window. You're really giving them another chance? She asked. I'm giving us all another chance, I replied. But this time, I'm writing the rules. My phone buzzed with a text from Stacy. Your dad's in the test kitchen, taking notes from our head chef. Your mom's actually smiling. Ready for the next chapter? Sarah asked. I thought about the journey, from betrayal to revenge to something deeper, more meaningful, about power and grace and how sometimes they're the same thing. Yes, I said, picking up my jacket. Let's go watch my father learn to make pasta. My way. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what hurt you. Sometimes it's building something so beautiful that everyone wants to be part of it, even those who once cast you out. And that's a victory that tastes sweeter than any revenge.
The email glowed on my screen like a ghost from the past, each word striking me with the force of a hammer. Ms. Morgan, your expertise is urgently needed to save Townsend Industries. My name is Viviana, and 16 years ago, I stood in my parents' pristine living room, trembling as I told them I was pregnant. I was 18, terrified, and desperate for their support. Instead, I got a cold stare from my mother and 5 words that changed everything. "Get out of this house." "Viv, your 2 p.m. is here." Felicity's voice crackled through the intercom, yanking me back to the present. I minimized the email and straightened my blazer, pushing away memories I'd rather forget. "Send them in," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremors in my chest. The door opened, and Aaron Smith walked in, his familiar face a reminder of everything I'd left behind. "It's been a while, Viviana. 16 years, give or take a few months." I gestured to the chair across from my desk. "I assume you're here about the email?" He nodded, settling into the leather seat. "They don't know it's you. They think they're reaching out to Elysia Morgan, the CEO of Phoenix Enterprises." I couldn't help but laugh. "The irony isn't lost on me, Aaron. The parents who threw me out now need my help to save their precious company. They're desperate, Viv. The company's bleeding money, and your father's health isn't what it used to be." I stood up, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Do you remember the night I left? It was raining, just like today." "I remember. I tried to reason with them. Fat lot of good that did." I turned back to face him. Felicity was the only one who helped me. She gave me a couch to sleep on, helped me find work. While I was 7 months pregnant, working 2 jobs and taking online classes, where were they? Aaron leaned forward. "They made mistakes, horrible ones, but this could be your chance to what? Get revenge? Show them how well I did without them?" I interrupted, my voice sharper than intended. The intercom buzzed again. "Mom?" Sophia's voice filled the room. "I finished that market analysis you wanted. Can I come in?" My heart softened instantly. "Come in, sweetheart." As the story develops, if you're enjoying it, consider subscribing for a new one each day, where justice always finds its way. Back to our unfolding situation. The door opened, and my daughter walked in, her tablet in hand. At 16, she was everything I could have hoped for. Brilliant, kind, and stronger than I ever was. She stopped short when she saw Aaron. "Uncle Aaron?" Her face lit up. She hadn't seen him since she was 12, when he'd secretly helped us with some legal work. "Look at you, all grown up," Aaron smiled, standing to hug her. "You look just like your mum at your age. Except smarter," I added, watching them with a mix of pride and pain. This was what family should look like. Unconditional love, not judgment and rejection. Sophia's eyes darted between us. "What's going on?" I hesitated, but she deserved the truth. "Your grandparents' company is in trouble. They've reached out to Phoenix Enterprises for help." "But they don't know it's you." Her quick mind connected the dots instantly. "No, they think they're dealing with Elysia Morgan." Sophia sat on the edge of my desk, her expression thoughtful. "Are you going to help them?" The question hung in the air, heavy with 16 years of hurt, anger, and unspoken words. I looked at the email again, then at the photos on my desk, Sophia's first day of school, her science fair victory, her recent debate team win. All moments my parents had missed because of their pride. "Your mother has built something remarkable here," Aaron said quietly. "Phoenix Enterprises is exactly what Townsend Industries needs. The question is whether the past should determine the future." I reached for my phone, pulling up the contact I'd never deleted but never used. My finger hovered over my brother Reed's number. "Mom," Sophia said softly, "sometimes the best revenge is showing people exactly what they threw away." I looked at my daughter, seeing in her face all the wisdom I'd fought so hard to instill. She was right, of course. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about proving something, not to them, but to myself. "Aaron," I said, my decision made, "set up the meeting, but let's keep playing this game a little longer. I want to see their faces when they realize exactly who Elysia Morgan is." He nodded, understanding the weight of what I was proposing. "I'll arrange everything." As he left, Sophia hugged me tight. "I'm proud of you, Mum." I held her close, remembering the scared teenager I'd once been. now replaced by the woman I'd become. I love you, sweetheart. You're the best decision I ever made. The rain continued to fall outside my office window, but this time I wasn't the one getting wet. This time, I was the one with the power to either shelter or storm. The boardroom of Townsend Industries felt smaller than I remembered, maybe because the last time I'd been here, I was looking up at these mahogany walls from a child's height. Now, dressed in a crisp black suit as Alicia Morgan, I commanded the space. "Ms. Morgan, thank you for coming." My father's voice was thinner than I remembered, his once commanding presence diminished by age and worry. He didn't recognize me behind my sleek bob cut and designer glasses. Amazing what 16 years and success can do to change a person. "The pleasure is mine, Mr. Townsend." I kept my voice deliberately lower, smoother than my natural tone. "Your company's situation intrigues me." My mother sat beside him, her spine rigid as ever, but new lines creased her face. Reed, my brother, stood by the window, pretending to study the cityscape while stealing glances at me. "We've reviewed your proposal," my father continued, sliding a folder across the table. "Your reputation precedes you. Phoenix Enterprises has an impressive track record of turning companies around." I opened the folder, though I'd memorized every detail of their failing business. "Your numbers are concerning. The market shifted 5 years ago, but your strategies remained stagnant." "We maintain traditional values," my mother interjected, her voice sharp. "Our customers appreciate consistency." I couldn't help but smile. "Your dropping sales suggest otherwise. Your competitors are embracing digital transformation while you're still operating like it's 1995. Reed finally turned from the window. "She's right, Mom. I've been saying this for years." "And I suppose you think you can save us?" My mother's tone dripped with the same condescension I remembered from my teenage years. "Actually," I removed my glasses, letting them see me clearly for the first time. "I know I can, because I've done it before, starting with nothing but determination and a newborn daughter." The silence that followed was deafening. My father's face drained of color. My mother's hand flew to her throat. Reed's sharp intake of breath was the only sound in the room. "Viviana," my father whispered. "Surprise." I leaned back in my chair, savoring the moment. "Alicia Morgan is my professional alias. Phoenix Enterprises is my company. And yes, I built it from scratch while raising the grandchild you never wanted to meet." My mother stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "This is absurd. Aaron, did you know about this?" Aaron, who'd been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward. "I did, and I encouraged it. You need her help, Violet. Your pride has cost you enough already." "How dare you," my mother began, but Reed cut her off. "Stop it, Mom." His voice was stronger than I'd ever heard it. "Look at what Viviana's accomplished. While you were pretending she didn't exist, she was building an empire. Maybe it's time we admitted we were wrong." I pulled out my tablet, projecting their company's financials onto the wall. "You're 3 months from bankruptcy. Your choice is simple. Accept my help and my terms, or watch everything you've built crumble." "Your terms?" my father asked, finding his voice. "Complete restructuring, digital transformation, and..." I paused, meeting each of their eyes. "You'll work with my daughter. She's designed an innovative marketing strategy that could save this company." "A teenager?" my mother scoffed. "A teenager who's already completed her business degree online and runs our youth market division," I corrected. "She's everything you feared I couldn't become when you threw me out." Reed moved to sit beside me, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed. "I've reviewed her proposals, Mom. They're brilliant. We'd be idiots not to accept." My father reached for my mother's hand, squeezing it gently. "We don't have a choice, Violet." I stood, gathering my things. "You have 24 hours to decide. Oh, and one more thing." I pulled out a photo of Sophia and placed it on the table. "This is your granddaughter, the one you've never met. She's willing to help save your company, despite knowing exactly how you treated her mother. Think about that while you make your decision." As I turned to leave, Reed caught up with me at the door. Viv, wait, can we talk? Tomorrow, Reed, after they decide. I paused, looking back at our parents. 16 years ago, you made me feel worthless. Now I'm worth more than your entire company. Funny how life works out, isn't it? The walk to my car was triumphant, but my hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel. I pulled out my phone and dialed Felicity. How'd it go? She asked immediately. Exactly as planned. You should have seen their faces. Are you okay? I started the engine, watching through the windshield as Reed argued with our parents in the boardroom window above. I don't know, but for the first time since that night, I feel like I'm in control. Come over for dinner, Felicity insisted. Sophia's already here, helping me cook. We'll celebrate phase 1 of Operation Karma. I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. Save me some wine. I have a feeling I'm going to need it. As I drove away from Townsend Industries, I couldn't help but think about tomorrow. Would they swallow their pride and accept my help, or would they let their empire fall? Either way, I'd already won. The next morning, I arrived early at Townsend Industries, walking through familiar corridors that now felt like a museum of my past. Employees hurried past, their worried whispers echoing off the walls. Everyone knew the company was in trouble, but no one knew just how deep it ran. I didn't think you'd come back. Reed's voice startled me. He was leaning against the wall near our father's old office, looking exhausted. Technically, I never left. You all did that for me. I adjusted my blazer. Have they made their decision? They were up all night arguing about it. He fell into step beside me. Mum kept saying it was a trick, that you're here for revenge. Dad, he just kept staring at Sophia's photo. We stopped at the break room, and Reed poured us both coffee. He still remembered how I took mine. Black with 2 sugars, he said, handing me a cup. Some things don't change. Some things do. I took a sip, like you finally standing up to them yesterday. He slumped into a chair. I've wanted to for years. Ever since that night, actually. I should have defended you then. You were 19, Reed. They would have thrown you out too. Maybe that would have been better than watching them destroy everything good about this place. He pulled out a tablet, showing me internal reports. Look at this. Dad's been cooking the books for months, trying to hide how bad things are. The ethical standards you and I grew up with. Gone. I scrolled through the documents, my stomach turning. This is worse than I thought. They're 1 audit away from criminal charges. I know. Reed ran his hands through his hair. That's why I convinced them to accept your help. They agreed this morning, with conditions. Of course they did. I set down my coffee. Let me guess, they want to maintain control. They want to meet Sophia first, before anything else happens. The protective mother in me bristled. Absolutely not. They lost that right 16 years ago. Viv, please. Reed touched my arm. They're trying. In their own stubborn, prideful way, but they're trying. Mom actually cried last night looking at her picture. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Sophia. On my way up, ready to meet the grandparents. What? I spun toward Reed. Did you tell her? He had the grace to look sheepish. She called me this morning, said she wanted to rip off the Band-Aid. The elevator dinged, and there she was. My brilliant, fearless daughter, dressed in a professional suit that matched mine, her presentation materials tucked under her arm. Mom, you look like you've seen a ghost. She hugged me, then turned to Reed. Thanks for the heads up, Uncle Reed. Is everyone in the main conference room? Sophia, wait, I started, but she cut me off. Mum, I've got this. You taught me to face challenges head on, remember? She squeezed my hand. Besides, I've been preparing for this meeting my whole life. We followed her to the conference room, where my parents were waiting. The moment she walked in, my mother gasped. The resemblance between us at 16 was striking. Hi, Sophia said confidently, extending her hand. I'm Sophia Townsend, your granddaughter, and I'm here to save your company. My father stood slowly, taking her hand. You look just like your mother when you kicked her out. Sophia's smile remained pleasant, but her words cut deep. Yes, I know the whole story. I also know you're 3 months from bankruptcy. Your digital infrastructure is ancient, and your market share has dropped 60% in 5 years. She moved to the front of the room, connecting her tablet to the projector. But I also know how to fix it. Would you like to see how? My mother found her voice. You're just a child. A child with an IQ of 165 and a business degree. Sophia pulled up her presentation. Also, I've increased Phoenix's youth market revenue by 200% in the last year. But please, continue underestimating me. It's kind of a family tradition, isn't it? Reed choked back a laugh. I couldn't hide my proud smile. For the next hour, Sophia presented her plan. It was brilliant. A complete digital overhaul, sustainable practices, youth-focused marketing, and ethical business reforms. She answered every question with confidence and grace, even my mother's increasingly desperate attempts to find flaws. My father trailed off, studying the projections. Revolutionary, Sophia suggested. That's what happens when you embrace change instead of fearing it. So, what's it going to be? Are you ready to let the next generation save what the last one nearly destroyed? The room fell silent. I watched my parents exchange looks, 16 years of pride warring with the undeniable truth before them. Finally, my father nodded. We accept, all of it. Good choice. Sophia gathered her things. Mum will draw up the contracts. Oh, and Grandma? She paused at the door. That antique filing system in the basement. It's the first thing to go. As she left, Reed whistled low. Well, that was karma, I finished, watching my daughter's retreating form with pride. In its finest form. A week into the company overhaul, I was reviewing files in my father's office when Reed burst in, his face pale. We have a problem. Another one? I looked up from the stack of documents. What now? He closed the door and lowered his voice. Remember those reports I showed you about Dad cooking the books? It's worse than that. Way worse. How much worse? Reed pulled out a USB drive. I found these hidden in an encrypted folder. Dad's been making deals with shell companies, accepting bribes for government contracts. If this gets out, everyone goes to jail. I finished, my stomach dropping. Does Mom know? Are you kidding? She still thinks using email is too modern. He collapsed into a chair. What are we going to do, Viv? Before I could answer, there was a knock. My mother entered, looking uncomfortable in my presence as always. The auditors are here early. They want to see the books. Reed's face went white. I stood up, smoothing my skirt. Tell them I'll be right there. After she left, I turned to Reed. Get Sophia out of the building. Now. I don't want her anywhere near this when it hits the fan. What are you going to do? My job. I grabbed my laptop. Call Aaron. Tell him to get here immediately. The next hour was a blur of activity. I met with the auditors, buying time with carefully worded responses while Aaron rushed over. In the conference room, my father sat with his head in his hands while my mother paced. How could you be so stupid? She hissed at him. All these years of preaching about integrity. I was trying to save our legacy, he shot back. Everything was falling apart. Enough. I slammed my hand on the table. Playing the blame game won't help. Aaron's on his way with our legal team. Until then, nobody says a word to anyone. My mother turned on me. And I suppose you're enjoying this? Watching everything we built crumble? Mom, Reed warned, but I'd had enough. Everything you built? I laughed bitterly. You mean everything you destroyed? I spent 1 week looking at your books, and I found enough fraud to put this whole family in prison. Some legacy. Aaron arrived with his team, and the next few hours were spent in intense discussion. The situation was dire, but not unsalvageable, if we acted fast. We need to self-report, Aaron explained. Come clean before they find it themselves. It'll mean fines, probably significant ones, but it's better than prison time. We'll lose everything, my father whispered. You already lost everything, I said quietly. 16 years ago when you chose pride over family. This is just paperwork catching up. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia. Mum, why did Uncle Reed send me home? What's going on? I stepped out to call her. But Reed followed me. Viv, wait. There's something else you should know. What now? The reason I helped you, agreed to be your inside source. I've been documenting everything. The fraud, the bribes, all of it. I couldn't live with myself, watching them destroy what Grandpa built. I studied my brother's face, seeing years of guilt and conflict. Why didn't you come to me sooner? Same reason you stayed away. Fear. But when I saw what Sophia had become, how you raised her with real values, I knew it was time. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Felicity. News vans outside Townsend Industries. Want me to run interference? It's starting, I muttered, showing Reed the message. He grabbed my arm. Viv, please. Help me fix this. Not for them, for us. For what this company could be. I looked through the glass walls at our parents, huddled with the lawyers. 16 years ago, they'd thrown me out into the rain. Now they were drowning, and I held the life raft. Okay, I said finally, but we do this my way, complete transparency, new management, and they step down, both of them. They'll fight it. Then they can explain their creative accounting to a judge. I straightened my spine. It's time for the next generation to take over, Reed. You, me, and Sophia will rebuild this company the right way. He nodded slowly. What do we do first? First, we tell the truth. All of it. Then we let Sophia implement her plans. Every single one of them. No more old guard, no more shortcuts. And Mum and Dad, I watched them through the glass, these parents who'd shaped my life through their rejection. They get to watch from the sidelines. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what someone loves. It's taking it and making it better than they ever could. Reed squeezed my shoulder. I'll stand with you this time, sis, I promise. I know. I took a deep breath and headed back to the conference room. It was time to start breaking things down before we could build them up again. This time, we'd do it right. You lied to me. Sophia's voice cut through my office like a knife. She stood in the doorway, tablet in hand, displaying news headlines about Townsend Industries' fraud investigation. I was trying to protect you, I said, setting down the legal documents I'd been reviewing. Protect me? She strode in, dropping the tablet on my desk. Mom, I'm not that scared teenager you used to be. I can handle the truth. Sophia. No, let me finish. She pulled up a chair. I've spent the last 3 days analyzing everything. The shell companies, the bribes, all of it. And you know what? I have a solution. I couldn't help but smile despite the tension. Of course you do. But first, she leaned forward, you need to tell me everything. No more secrets. For the next hour, I laid it all out. Reed's evidence, the auditors, the potential consequences. Sophia listened intently, occasionally taking notes on her tablet. So Grandpa's facing possible jail time, she asked, unless we can negotiate a deal. I rubbed my temples. The prosecutors might settle for fines and resignations if we cooperate fully. Good. Sophia stood and started pacing, reminding me so much of myself. Because here's my plan. We don't just clean house, we rebuild it entirely. Transform Townsend Industries into a tech-forward, ethical business incubator. She pulled up a presentation on the wall screen. See, everyone's focusing on the scandal, but I see opportunity. We use this crisis to completely rebrand. The old guard steps down, we implement strict transparency measures, and we focus on helping young entrepreneurs build legitimate businesses. That's actually brilliant, I admitted, studying her projections. I learned from the best. She smiled. But there's one more thing. I want to meet with Grandma and Grandpa, alone. Absolutely not. Mom, she took my hand, you've been carrying their rejection for 16 years. Let me show them exactly what they missed out on. Before I could respond, Reed burst in. The prosecutors are here. They want to talk to everyone. Sophia grabbed her tablet. Perfect timing. Uncle Reed, I need you to set up a meeting with the board for tomorrow morning. Sophia, wait, I started, but she was already heading out. Trust me, Mum. Sometimes the best person to face the past is someone who wasn't damaged by it. The next few hours were a whirlwind of legal discussions. The prosecutors were willing to deal, especially after seeing Reed's evidence and our voluntary disclosure. By evening, we had a framework: heavy fines, my parents' resignation, and a complete corporate restructuring. I found my mother in her office, packing her things. "Need help?" She jumped, then composed herself. "I think I've managed for 30 years without it." "Right." I moved to leave, but her voice stopped me. "She's remarkable, you know. Sophia, nothing like I expected." "What did you expect? The child of a teenage disappointment?" She flinched. "I deserve that. But watching her today, seeing how she handles herself, you did what I couldn't. You raised her right." "No thanks to you. I know." She picked up a photo from her desk, my high school graduation. "Your father and I, we were so focused on appearances, on what people would think. We forgot to think about what really mattered." "Save it." I turned to go. "Sophia wants to meet with you and Dad tomorrow. Don't disappoint her like you disappointed me." Back in my office, I found Felicity waiting with 2 glasses of wine. "Rough day? You could say that." I collapsed into my chair. My 16-year-old daughter is about to take over a multi-million-dollar company restructuring. My parents are finally facing consequences, and I'm not sure if I'm winning or losing anymore. "Sounds like winning to me." She handed me a glass. "You know what the difference is between you and your parents? You learned from your mistakes. They're only now learning from theirs." My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia. "Board meeting set for 9 a.m. Grandparents agreed to meet at 8. Don't worry, I've got this. Love you." She really does have this, doesn't she? I showed Felicity the message. "Like mother, like daughter." She raised her glass. "To the next generation of Townsends, may they be better than the last." I clinked my glass against hers, thinking about tomorrow. Sophia was right. She wasn't the scared teenager I had been. She was stronger, smarter, and unburdened by the past. "You know," Felicity said softly, "sometimes the best revenge is letting your kids show your parents exactly what they missed out on." I nodded, watching the city lights flicker outside my window. Tomorrow, Sophia would face my parents with all the confidence I never had at her age. And maybe, just maybe, that would be the greatest victory of all. I sat in my office at 7:55 a.m., watching the security feed of the main conference room. Sophia was already there, setting up her presentation with the same methodical precision I'd always admired. My parents entered exactly at 8 a.m. Some habits never change. "You shouldn't be watching this," Reed said, closing my laptop. "She's my daughter." "Who specifically asked for privacy?" He pulled up a chair. "Come on, let's review the board presentation instead." My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "Your daughter is everything we should have helped you become." Before I could process that, Aaron rushed in. "We have another problem. The board's trying to install their own CEO instead of accepting the restructuring plan." "What?" Reed stood up. "They can't do that. We have a deal with the prosecutors." "They're claiming they weren't party to that deal." Aaron spread several documents across my desk. "They're meeting right now, trying to vote before the official board meeting." I grabbed my phone to warn Sophia, but Reed stopped me. "Let her finish with Mom and Dad. I'll handle the board." "How?" He smiled grimly. "Remember those files I showed you? They don't just implicate Dad. Half the board knew about everything." The next hour was chaos. While Sophia met with our parents, Reed and Aaron confronted the board members with evidence of their complicity. I stayed in my office, feeling strangely detached from it all, until Sophia appeared in my doorway. "Mom." Her eyes were red, but she was smiling. "You might want to come see this." I followed her to the conference room. My parents stood by the window, my mother actually crying, my father looking years older than he had yesterday. "Tell her," Sophia said gently to them. My mother turned, wiping her eyes. "We were wrong. Not just about you, but about everything. The way we ran this company, the values we thought we were upholding, we were wrong." "Sophia showed us her plans," my father added. She's got your business sense and none of our rigidity. She showed us what this company could become. And, I prompted, not ready to let them off easily. And we'd like to step down completely, my mother said. No conditions, no interference. Let you and Sophia and Reed build something better than we ever could. Before I could respond, Felicity burst in. The board meeting's starting early. They're trying to force a vote. Perfect timing, Sophia said, gathering her things. Everyone ready? Ready for what? I asked. She grinned. The final act, of course. Grandma, Grandpa, you're about to see how a real corporate takeover works. We entered the boardroom to find chaos. Board members were shouting. Reed was calmly presenting evidence of their misconduct, and Aaron stood by with what looked like a team of federal agents. Ladies and gentlemen, Sophia's voice cut through the noise. Before you vote, you might want to see this. She connected her tablet to the display, showing a complex web of transactions. While everyone was focused on the obvious fraud, I found something much more interesting. Every single person in this room, except my mother and uncle, has been engaging in insider trading, and I have proof. The room went silent. So here are your options, she continued, cool as ice. Option 1. You vote to accept our restructuring plan, resign immediately, and cooperate with the authorities. Option 2. Face federal prosecution. Your choice. One of the board members stood up. You can't threaten us. You're just a kid. A kid who just exposed your entire operation, Reed countered. And those federal agents aren't here by accident. I watched in amazement as my daughter, my 16-year-old daughter, systematically dismantled every objection, presented evidence of every crime, and outlined exactly how the company would transform under new leadership. All in favor of accepting the restructuring plan, Aaron called out. The vote was unanimous. As the board members filed out, many already in handcuffs, my mother touched my arm. She's magnificent. We missed so much. Yes, you did. I turned to face them. But she's right about one thing. This company needs to change. Really change. We know, my father said. That's why we're not just stepping down. We're giving our shares to Sophia. In trust, of course, until she's 18. Let her build the company she envisions. I looked at my daughter, who was already deep in discussion with Reed about implementation plans. You're sure? More sure than we've been about anything in 16 years, my mother said softly. Sophia bounded over. Mom, the prosecutors love our transparency plan. They're going to use it as a model for corporate reform. Isn't that amazing? I hugged her tight, feeling the pride and love that my parents had denied themselves all these years. You're amazing. No, she whispered. I just had a better teacher than they did. As we left the boardroom, I couldn't help but think how differently things had turned out from what I'd initially planned. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about redemption, not just for my parents, but for the entire legacy they'd built and nearly destroyed. 1 month after the boardroom showdown, I stood at the podium in the company's main auditorium, facing hundreds of employees. The air buzzed with uncertainty and hope. Change isn't easy, I began, but sometimes it's necessary. Today marks the beginning of a new era for this company. Sophia sat in the front row between my parents, all three dressed in business attire. The sight still felt surreal. Many of you have heard rumors about what happened, I continued. Today we're going to be completely transparent about everything. The fraud, the changes, and most importantly, your futures. I clicked to the first slide, showing the company's new structure. No one is losing their jobs. Instead, we're redistributing resources, modernizing operations, and creating new opportunities. Sophia stood up on cue, joining me at the podium. Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Townsend. You might have heard about me, the teenage granddaughter who helped expose the fraud, but that's not why I'm here today. She clicked to the next slide, showing her incubator program. I'm here because every single person in this room deserves a chance to innovate, to grow, to prove themselves. Just like my mum did 16 years ago when she was thrown out of this very building. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My mother visibly flinched. The old Townsend Industries was built on hierarchy and fear, Sophia continued. The new one will be built on innovation and trust. Starting today, every employee can submit ideas for new projects. The best ones will receive funding and support. Reed joined us next, outlining the new ethical guidelines and reporting procedures. The employees' faces shifted from skepticism to interest, then to genuine excitement as we laid out the transformation plan. Questions? I asked after the presentation. A senior manager stood up. Why should we trust this change? How do we know it's not just another corporate reshuffling? Fair question, Sophia responded. Which is why we're implementing complete transparency. All financial records, all decisions, all projects will be accessible to every employee. No more secrets. Another hand rose. Ms. Townsend, the younger one. Aren't you too young to be making these decisions? Sophia smiled. Age didn't stop my mom from building Phoenix Enterprises after being kicked out at 18. Age didn't stop me from exposing corporate fraud. Why should it stop any of us from building something better? The questions continued for an hour. Through it all, Sophia handled each one with grace and wisdom beyond her years. I watched my parents' faces as they witnessed their granddaughter in action, pride warring with regret. After the meeting, employees lined up to share ideas with Sophia. My mother approached me while I watched from the side. She's a natural leader, she said softly. She is. No thanks to you. Viviana, she hesitated. I know we can never make up for what we did, but watching her today, seeing what you've both become, I've never been more ashamed of my choices. Good. I turned to face her. That shame, hold on to it. Let it remind you every time you want to judge someone for not fitting your perfect mold. Before she could respond, Felicity rushed over with urgent news. The media's outside. They want statements about the transformation plan. I'll handle it, Sophia called out, already heading for the door. No, I said firmly. We do this together. All of us. I looked at my parents. Time to show the world what real change looks like. Outside, reporters swarmed with questions about the scandal, the changes, and the unusual sight of 3 generations of Townsend women standing together. Is it true a teenager exposed the fraud? How does it feel working with the parents who rejected you? What makes you think this transformation will succeed? Sophia stepped forward. Let me tell you a story about second chances. 16 years ago, this company chose pride over family. Today, we're choosing innovation over tradition, transparency over secrets, and most importantly, redemption over revenge. I watched my daughter handle the press with the same confidence she'd shown in the boardroom. My father touched my arm. We were so wrong, he whispered. About everything. Yes, you were. I kept my eyes on Sophia. But she's right about second chances. Don't waste this one. As the questions continued, I saw something remarkable happening. Employees were gathering behind us, showing support. Reed stood proudly beside Sophia, helping field technical questions. Even my mother stepped forward to publicly acknowledge past mistakes. Final question, Sophia announced. Someone asked why they should trust this change. Look around you. See these people? They're not just employees anymore. They're partners in building something new, something better. That's why this will work, because this time, everyone has a voice. The cameras flashed as we stood together. 3 generations of a broken family, slowly healing through the very company that once tore us apart. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And sometimes, that's better than perfect. Back inside, Sophia hugged me tight. Think we convinced them? I looked at the crowd of energized employees, my cautiously hopeful parents, and my proudly beaming brother. I think we did more than that. I think we just started a revolution. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee as I sat across from my mother at the small cafe near Townsend Industries. It had become our weekly ritual. Awkward at first, but gradually evolving into something resembling normal. Sophia's latest project launched today, I said, stirring my latte. The Youth Entrepreneurship Program. I saw the announcement. My mother's hands trembled slightly around her cup. 20 full scholarships for teenage parents who want to start businesses. It's pointed. It's necessary. I met her eyes. And it's healing. The door chimed and Sophia burst in with her usual energy, followed by Reed and my father. They'd been meeting with potential partners all morning. Mom, Grandma! Sophia slid into the chair between us. You won't believe what just happened. Tell them, Uncle Reed. Reed grinned, pulling up a chair. The Innovation Hub proposal. Every major tech company in the city wants in. They're fighting to partner with us. With her, my father corrected, looking at Sophia with undisguised pride. They want to partner with her. The waitress brought more coffee, and I watched my family. Really watched them. My mother, slowly learning to listen instead of judge. My father, finally understanding that legacy isn't about control. Reed, no longer buried under expectations. And Sophia, bringing out the best in all of us. I have something to show you, Sophia said, pulling out her tablet. She opened a video compilation of employee testimonials about the company's transformation. Since the changes, one employee said on screen, I've launched my own project within the company. My ideas matter now. Another employee appeared. My daughter was inspired by Sophia's story. She's applying for the entrepreneurship program. My mother wiped away tears as the videos played. We could have had this all along, if we'd just... Stop, I said firmly. No more dwelling on what could have been. Focus on what is. Speaking of what is, Reed interjected, have you told them about the award? Sophia blushed. I was waiting for the right moment. What award? My father asked. The National Youth Leadership Award, Reed announced proudly, for revolutionizing corporate culture and creating opportunities for young entrepreneurs. My mother reached for Sophia's hand. When is the ceremony? Next week. Sophia squeezed her hand. I want you all there. The whole family. The word family hung in the air, heavy with meaning. 16 years of pain, pride, and missed opportunities, all transformed by this remarkable girl. There's something else, my father said quietly. I've been working with Aaron on the paperwork. We want to legally change the company name. I tensed. To what? Phoenix Townsend Industries, he replied. To honor both where we came from and where we're going. If that's okay with you, Viviana. The gesture wasn't lost on me. Combining my chosen name with our family name, a bridge between past and future. Only if Sophia approves, I said, looking at my daughter. She's the one leading us forward. Sophia pretended to consider it seriously. Well, the logo would need updating. And the website. And all our branding. She grinned. I already have designs ready. Of course you do, Reed laughed. My mother set down her coffee cup. I've been thinking about the old house. It's too big for your father and me now. Maybe it could be the location for your entrepreneurship program. I stared at her, recognizing the offer for what it was. Not just a building, but a symbol of change. The house where you kicked me out, I asked quietly. The house where we made the biggest mistake of our lives, she corrected. Let's turn it into something better. Something that helps other young parents instead of judging them. Sophia grabbed my hand under the table, squeezing it gently. I squeezed back, finding strength in her presence. Okay, I said finally. But we do it right. Full scholarships, childcare included, mentorship programs. Everything I needed back then. Everything and more, Sophia agreed. We'll make it a place of second chances. Reed raised his coffee cup. To second chances. As we all toasted, I looked around the table again. The wounds weren't gone. They might never fully heal. But something new had grown around them. Something stronger than pride, more powerful than revenge. You know what this means? Sophia said, her eyes twinkling. Family dinner, all of us, every Sunday. Don't push it, I warned, but I was smiling. Too late, she replied. I already made reservations for tonight. As we left the cafe, walking together toward the company we'd rebuilt, I felt the last pieces falling into place. Not perfect, but real. Not forgetting, but forgiving. Not erasing the past, but building a better future. My daughter had taught us all what I'd learned alone 16 years ago, that sometimes the greatest triumph isn't in destroying what hurt you, but in creating something beautiful from the ruins. The flash of cameras nearly blinded me as I stepped onto the runway for my final bow. 6 months of sleepless nights, countless cups of coffee, and enough anxiety to fill Madison Square Garden had led to this moment. As the applause thundered through the venue, I couldn't help but smile, knowing somewhere out there, my ex-husband Lucas was probably choking on his morning coffee. I'm Freya, and 3 years ago I lost everything. Well, Lucas took everything, if we're being precise. Now I was standing at New York Fashion Week, watching the fashion elite give me a standing ovation for my debut collection. Freya, this is incredible. Rachel, my best friend and head of PR, rushed backstage to hug me. The buyers from Bergdorf's are practically fighting each other to place orders. I grinned, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. Please tell me someone recorded their reaction to the closing piece. The red dress? Girl, I think Anna Wintour actually smiled. The backstage area buzzed with activity, models changing, photographers snapping last-minute shots, and assistants scurrying around with clipboards. I took a moment to lean against a makeup station, letting it all sink in. Remember when you were sleeping on my couch? Rachel asked softly, squeezing my hand. Look at you now. Yeah, funny how life works out when your husband doesn't empty your joint account and run off with a model half his age. I took another sip of champagne, the bubbles matching the effervescent feeling in my chest. Ms. Holland, a young assistant appeared at my elbow. Cynthia Black would like a word. My heart skipped. Cynthia Black, the fashion director who'd given me my second chance, wanted to see me. I smoothed down my black designer dress, one of my own creations, and followed the assistant. Cynthia stood near the exit, her signature white hair perfectly coiffed. Darling, you've outdone yourself. She air-kissed both my cheeks. The construction, the storytelling through the progression of the pieces, brilliant. Thank you, Cynthia. I couldn't have done this without your support. Nonsense, you did this all on your own. Though I must say, that final red dress, she raised an eyebrow, rather reminiscent of the one you wore to the Met Gala 3 years ago, isn't it? The one Lucas praised so highly before. Before he stole my designs, my money and my dignity, I finished for her. Maybe I wanted to reclaim it, make it mine again. Cynthia's eyes sparkled. Well, revenge does look fabulous on you, darling. The next hour passed in a blur of interviews and congratulations. I was answering questions about my inspiration when Rachel appeared again, her face pale. Freya, we need to talk, now. I excused myself and followed her to a quiet corner. What's wrong? She's here. Who's here? Natasha. The champagne turned sour in my stomach. Natasha, the model Lucas had left me for. The one who'd worn my designs while sleeping with my husband. The one who'd smiled sympathetically at me at parties while knowing what was coming. Where? Rachel pointed toward the emergency exit. There she stood, Natasha Crawford, former IT girl and face of major campaigns. But she looked different now. Gone was the confident pose and perfect makeup. She looked haunted, her designer clothes wrinkled and her eyes red-rimmed. Should I call security? Rachel asked, already reaching for her phone. I held up my hand. No, let her come. Natasha approached slowly, like a wounded animal. Up close, I could see dark circles under her eyes, poorly concealed by makeup. Freya, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, I know I'm the last person you want to see. You've got that right. I crossed my arms, aware of Rachel hovering protectively nearby. I need your help. Tears welled in her eyes. Lucas, he's done it again, but this time it's so much worse. I'm in trouble, real trouble, and you're the only one who might understand. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Understand? You want me to understand? You helped him destroy my life. And now he's destroyed mine too. She grabbed my arm desperately. Please, Freya, I have nowhere else to go. The FBI is involved and The FBI? Rachel interrupted, stepping closer. Natasha nodded, fumbling in her designer bag. She pulled out a crumpled envelope and thrust it at me. Everything's in here. What he did to you, to me, to others. Please, just look at it. After that, if you still want me to leave, I will. I stared at the envelope, my heart pounding. 3 years of rebuilding my life, of pushing past the pain and humiliation. And now this? The universe had a sick sense of humor. You have 5 minutes, I said finally, taking the envelope. Make them count. Natasha's relief was palpable. As she began to speak, I caught my reflection in a nearby mirror. The woman looking back at me wasn't the same person who'd lost everything 3 years ago. She was stronger now, harder, and maybe, just maybe, ready for some real revenge. We should do this somewhere more private, I said, glancing around the bustling backstage area. Rachel, can you handle things here? Rachel shot Natasha a suspicious look. Are you sure about this? No, but I'm curious. I grabbed my coat and bag. There's a quiet coffee shop around the corner. The February wind bit at our faces as we walked. Natasha hugged herself, her thin designer jacket offering little protection against the cold. 3 years ago, I might have felt sorry for her. Now, I just felt impatient. The coffee shop was nearly empty. I chose a corner booth, far from the few other customers, and ordered a black coffee. Natasha got nothing. Talk, I said, spreading the contents of the envelope across the table. Bank statements, photographs, and what looked like email printouts scattered across the surface. Lucas, Natasha's voice cracked. He wasn't just stealing money. He was running a whole scheme. Fashion companies, investors, even models. He took everything. I picked up one of the bank statements. These are from the Cayman Islands. That's where he kept most of it, including what he took from you. She leaned forward. But it gets worse. He was using the modeling agency as a front for money laundering, big money, and he used my name on all the paperwork. I set down my coffee. You're telling me you didn't know? I knew something wasn't right, but I thought... She wiped at her eyes. God, I was so stupid. I thought he was just being clever with investments. By the time I figured it out, he'd already disappeared. When? 3 weeks ago. I woke up and he was gone, along with everything in our accounts. She laughed bitterly. Sound familiar? It did. Too familiar. I examined a photograph showing Lucas at some high-end party, his arm around a woman who wasn't Natasha. The date stamp was from 2 months ago. The FBI showed up at my door yesterday, Natasha continued. They're investigating the money laundering. My name is all over everything, Freya. I'm looking at serious prison time unless I can prove it was all Lucas. And how exactly am I supposed to help with that? Because you know how he works. You saw the signs before anyone else did, and... She pulled out another document from her bag. Because he's still using your old designs. My hands shook as I looked at the paper. Sketches, my sketches, with recent dates. Designs I'd created years ago, now being sold under a different label. Where did you get these? His laptop. He left it behind when he ran. I think he was in a hurry. Natasha's eyes gleamed. There's more. Account numbers, emails, everything. But I need help understanding it all. You worked in finance before fashion. You'd know what to look for. You've got some nerve, I said, my voice cold. You help him steal my life, and now you want me to help you save yours? I know how it sounds. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I was young and stupid. He told me you were the one stealing from him, that you were trying to ruin his career. I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because he made me feel special, like he made me feel special. I gathered the papers, stuffing them back into the envelope. You know what the worst part was? Not the money, not even the designs. It was watching you wear my clothes at events, knowing you were sleeping with my husband. Seeing you both laugh about it in page 6. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I am so sorry. I stood up, envelope in hand. You're right, it doesn't mean anything. Please, she grabbed my wrist. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for help to take him down, for both of us. I looked down at her perfectly manicured hand on my wrist, then at her face. The confident model was gone, replaced by someone who looked as broken as I'd felt 3 years ago. The FBI, I said slowly. When are they expecting to talk to you again? Tomorrow morning. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. Virgil, it's Freya. Remember that favor you owe me? I need a meeting, tonight, and bring everything you have on international banking fraud. Hanging up, I turned back to Natasha. My lawyer will meet us in an hour. If, and that's a big if, what you're showing me is real, we might be able to help each other. Thank you, she breathed. You won't regret this. Oh, I probably will. I picked up my coffee. But you know what? The thought of Lucas in handcuffs might just make it worth it. As we left the coffee shop, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Everything okay? I typed back, no, but it might be about to get interesting. Looking at Natasha's anxious face in the fading daylight, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, the thrill of the hunt. Lucas had no idea what was coming for him, and this time, I wouldn't be facing him alone. Virgil's office smelled of leather and expensive cologne. He sat behind his mahogany desk, reading glasses perched on his nose as he examined the documents spread before him. The wall clock ticked past midnight, but none of us showed any signs of fatigue. This is... Virgil removed his glasses, rubbing his eyes. This is significantly bigger than what he did to you, Freya. How much bigger? I asked, perched on the edge of my chair. We're talking tens of millions, multiple shell companies, fake investors, forged documents. He turned to Natasha. And your signature is on nearly everything. Natasha's face crumpled. Can you help me? The good news is, this level of sophistication makes it clear you weren't the mastermind. Virgil shuffled through more papers. The bad news is, proving that will be difficult without Lucas. What about the laptop? I asked. It's a start, but we need more. Bank records, correspondence, witnesses. He paused, studying a particular document. Wait, this name keeps appearing. Who's Eddie? Natasha straightened. Eddie? Eddie Martinez? He was Lucas's right-hand man at the agency, always hanging around, handling paperwork. Did he disappear with Lucas? No, she frowned. Actually, I saw him last week at a casting call. He seemed nervous. Virgil and I exchanged looks. We need to talk to Eddie, I said. Carefully, Virgil warned. If he's involved, we don't want to spook him. My phone buzzed. Rachel sending another check-in text. As I replied, an idea formed. The after-party, I said. My collection launch party tomorrow night. Every major player in the industry will be there, including casting directors. Natasha caught on quickly. Eddie never misses a big industry event. Too many potential contacts. Perfect. Virgil started gathering the documents. But first, we need to get ahead of the FBI interview tomorrow. Natasha, you'll tell them everything, except about the laptop and Eddie. We need those cards close to our chest. As we left Virgil's office, the city was quiet, streets empty except for the occasional taxi. Natasha hesitated by my car. I can't go home, she said quietly. The press has been camping outside my apartment since Lucas disappeared. I knew I'd regret this. You can stay at my place, but just for tonight. The drive to my apartment was silent. Inside, Natasha stood awkwardly in my living room, taking in the minimalist decor and wall of fashion sketches. These are amazing, she said, studying one drawing. They're all copies, I replied. Lucas took the originals. God, I was such an idiot. She turned to face me. You know what he told me? He said you were jealous of his success, that you were trying to take credit for his work. I actually believed him. Because you wanted to, I said, tossing her a blanket and pillow. The couch is comfortable enough. Freya? Her voice stopped me halfway to my bedroom. Did you ever wonder why he chose me? I turned slowly. Every day for a year. He said it was because I reminded him of you, the you he first met before you got bitter and focused on money instead of art. She laughed hollowly. Now I realize he was just looking for someone easier to control. Get some sleep, Natasha. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. I lay awake in bed, memories flooding back. Lucas at design school, charming and passionate. Lucas helping me transition from finance to fashion. Lucas gradually taking control of our finances, our business decisions, our life. My phone lit up with a text from Rachel. Are you sure about this? I typed back, no, but I'm sure about taking him down. Morning came too quickly. I found Natasha in my kitchen, already dressed in borrowed clothes, making coffee. The FBI meeting is at 9, she said, handing me a cup. Virgil's meeting us there. And tonight, I said, we find Eddie. What if he runs? Then we'll know he's hiding something. I sipped the coffee. It was good. But something tells me Eddie's looking for a way out too. My phone rang, Virgil with last-minute instructions. As I listened, I watched Natasha staring out my window at the city below. 3 years ago, I'd stood in the same spot, watching my world crumble. Now I was watching karma come full circle. Ready? I asked, grabbing my coat. Natasha nodded, her face set with determination. Ready to take the bastard down. We stepped out into the morning sunshine, 2 women united by betrayal and a thirst for justice. The FBI building loomed ahead of us, its glass windows reflecting the rising sun. Inside those walls, we'd start the domino effect that would bring Lucas's world crashing down. And somewhere in the city, Eddie was going about his day, unaware that his comfortable existence was about to be shattered. Tonight's party wouldn't just be celebrating my collection, it would be the beginning of our revenge. The FBI interview went exactly as Virgil planned. Natasha played her part perfectly, the naive model manipulated by a cunning fraudster. By the time we left, the agents were more interested in Lucas than her. That went well, Virgil said, straightening his tie in the elevator. But now comes the hard part. We need something concrete from Eddie tonight. Leave that to me, I said, checking my phone. Rachel's already confirmed he's on the guest list. Back at my apartment, Natasha and I prepared for the party. I lent her one of my designs, a sleek black dress that would help her blend in rather than stand out. For once, she wasn't trying to be the center of attention. How do we approach Eddie? She asked, applying mascara. He's paranoid on a good day. We don't. Rachel does. I showed her my phone screen, displaying Rachel's message. David's in position. Who's David? Private investigator. He's been following Eddie all week. I smiled grimly. Turns out our friend's been making some interesting trips to Western Union. The party venue was packed when we arrived. Fashion Week always brought out everyone who was anyone, and tonight was no exception. Rachel met us at the entrance, clipboard in hand. Eddie's at the bar, she whispered. David says he's made 3 calls in the last hour, all to the same number. Good. I scanned the crowd. You know what to do. Rachel nodded and disappeared into the crowd. I watched as she approached the bar, all smiles and charm. Eddie didn't stand a chance. There's Cynthia, Natasha murmured. She's heading this way. Split up, I said quickly. Mingle, but keep an eye on Eddie. Text if he moves. Cynthia air-kissed my cheeks. Darling, the collection is all anyone's talking about, but... She glanced at Natasha's retreating form. Are you sure about your choice of company tonight? Trust me, Cynthia. Everything's under control. For the next hour, I played the gracious host while watching Rachel work her magic. She had Eddie laughing, drinking, relaxing. I caught snippets of their conversation as I circulated. She was playing the ambitious PR rep, fishing for industry contacts. My phone buzzed. A text from David. Eddie just got a text, looking nervous. I watched as Eddie checked his phone, his face draining of color. He made an excuse to Rachel and headed for the restroom corridor. Now, I texted Natasha. I made my way to the back corridor, arriving just as Eddie emerged from the restroom. He froze when he saw me. Freya, great party. I was just running. Natasha stepped out from behind him, blocking his retreat. What is this? His eyes darted between us. I held up my phone, showing him a photo David had taken. Western Union, Eddie. That's amateur. Lucas taught you better than that. I don't know what you're talking about. But his voice shook. Really? So these transfers to Panama, aren't you moving Lucas's money? Or maybe, Natasha added, they're your cut, the price of keeping quiet. Eddie's facade cracked. You don't understand. He'll kill me if I talk. He'll kill you anyway, I said softly. You know too much, just like I did, just like Natasha did. We're all loose ends to him. The FBI is already investigating, Natasha pressed. They'll find everything eventually. But if you help us now, I can't. Eddie tried to push past us, but I grabbed his arm. Those Western Union transfers? The FBI will find them tomorrow morning. Anonymous tip. How long do you think it'll take them to connect the dots? He slumped against the wall. What do you want? Everything, I said. Account numbers, contacts, where he's hiding. But most importantly, proof that Natasha wasn't involved. And what do I get? Immunity, said a voice behind us. Virgil stepped out of the shadows. My client is willing to make a deal with the FBI on your behalf, but only if you give us everything tonight. Eddie looked trapped, desperate. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He's in Buenos Aires, he finally whispered, using a passport under the name Michael Ross. The account numbers, everything. It's all in a safe deposit box at First National. Key? I demanded. Hands shaking, he pulled a key from his wallet. Box 247. But there's something else you should know. He looked at me. Those designs he stole from you, he sold them, all of them, to manufacturers in Asia. My stomach dropped. When? Last week. The papers are in the box too. I'm sorry, Freya. I really am. Virgil took the key, nodding to someone in the shadows. 2 FBI agents emerged, badges glinting. Mr. Martinez, one said, we'd like you to come with us. As they led Eddie away, I leaned against the wall, processing. My designs, my original designs, were gone, mass-produced somewhere overseas, probably already hitting the market. Freya? Natasha touched my arm. Are you okay? No, I said, straightening up, but I will be, because now we know where Lucas is, and he has no idea we're coming. Rachel appeared with our coats. David's already booking flights to Buenos Aires. I smiled, a cold, determined smile. Perfect. Time to pay my ex-husband a surprise visit. Buenos Aires in summer was suffocating. We'd been here 3 days, holed up in a boutique hotel, while David tracked Lucas's movements. The safe deposit box had yielded everything Eddie promised: account numbers, contracts, and devastating proof of my stolen designs being sold to fast fashion manufacturers. He's meeting someone tonight, David said, spreading photos across the hotel room table. High-end restaurant in Palermo. Looks like another potential investor. Another victim, you mean? Natasha muttered, studying the surveillance photos. Rachel paced by the window. Are we sure about this? Going in person seems risky. We need him to slip up, I said, examining a photo of Lucas entering his apartment building. He's too careful with emails and phones, but face-to-face? I smiled. That's where he gets cocky. The restaurant's perfect, David continued. Public enough that he can't make a scene, private enough for our conversation. I've already arranged a table next to his. My phone buzzed. Virgil checking in. The FBI was building their case, but they needed Lucas back on U.S. soil to arrest him. Our job was to spook him into running straight into their trap. One problem, Rachel said. He knows what you both look like. He'll spot you immediately. I pulled out a small bag from my suitcase. That's why we're going to give him exactly what he expects to see. 2 hours later, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Gone was my signature platinum blonde hair, replaced by a dark brown wig styled in a sleek bob. Colored contacts turned my blue eyes brown. Even my posture was different. The confident designer replaced by a demure businesswoman. Natasha had undergone an even more dramatic transformation. Her model-perfect features were hidden behind glasses, her famous red hair now black and pulled into a severe bun. "Ready?" David asked, handing us our earpieces. The restaurant was exactly the type Lucas loved. Expensive enough to impress, but not flashy enough to draw attention. We arrived early, taking our seats at the adjacent table. Rachel and David positioned themselves at the bar, watching. "Target approaching," David's voice crackled in my ear. With company, my heart stopped when Lucas walked in. 3 years hadn't changed him much. Same confident stride, same charming smile. He was with an older man, clearly wealthy, clearly impressed by whatever Lucas was selling. "Remember," Rachel's voice warned, "let him get comfortable first." I forced myself to focus on the menu while listening to Lucas's smooth sales pitch at the next table. Same old lines, same practiced sincerity. The investor was eating it up. "Now," David said quietly. I stood, deliberately bumping into Lucas's chair as I headed to the restroom. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I said in Spanish, using the accent I'd practiced. Lucas barely glanced up. "No problem." I walked away, counting steps. 1, 2, 3. "Wait." His voice stopped me. I turned. He was staring at me, brow furrowed. "Yes?" He shook his head slightly. "Nothing. You just reminded me of someone." I smiled politely and continued to the restroom. Through my earpiece, I heard Natasha begin phase 2, a quiet phone conversation at her table, deliberately dropping words like investment opportunity and offshore accounts. When I returned, Lucas was distracted, keeping glancing between Natasha and me. The investor was still talking, but Lucas's responses were becoming shorter, less focused. "He's rattled," David observed. "Time to close the trap." I pulled out my phone, deliberately angling it so Lucas could see the screen. On it was a photo of his Buenos Aires apartment building. His face went white. "Excuse me," he said to his companion, standing abruptly. "I need to make a call." He hurried toward the exit. As planned, Natasha got up at the same time, timing their collision perfectly. "I'm so sorry," she said, her glasses falling off. As she bent to retrieve them, recognition flickered across Lucas's face. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." I stood, removing my wig. "Hello, Lucas. Miss me?" He backed away, looking between us with growing panic. "This is impossible. You two... You can't..." "Can't what?" I stepped closer. "Can't work together. Can't find you. Can't destroy you like you destroyed us." "You don't understand," he hissed. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Actually," Natasha said, "we do. Eddie was very helpful." The color drained from his face. "Eddie, he sang like a bird," I smiled. "The FBI has everything, Lucas. The accounts, the contracts, the fake companies. They're probably freezing your assets right now." He turned to run, but David and 2 local police officers blocked the exit. "Running again?" I called after him. "That's your solution to everything, isn't it? But here's the thing about running, Lucas. Eventually, you run out of places to hide." As the officers led him away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. But something in his last look, a mixture of fury and calculation, told me this wasn't over. "That was too easy," Rachel said, joining us. "He's planning something." "Good," I replied, watching Lucas being pushed into a police car. "Because so are we." The Buenos Aires police station buzzed with activity as we waited. Lucas had demanded to speak with me, alone. Virgil, patched in via video call, strongly advised against it. "It's a manipulation tactic," he warned. "He'll try to get in your head." "Good," I said. "Let him try." The interrogation room was small and stark. Lucas sat handcuffed to the table, his designer suit wrinkled, his perfect hair disheveled. He still managed to smile when I walked in. "You look good, Freya. Success suits you." "Save it." I sat across from him. You wanted to talk. So talk. Remember our first apartment, that tiny studio in Brooklyn? He leaned forward. You were so talented, so pure in your art. What happened to that girl? You destroyed her, or did you forget? I made you stronger. Look at you now, a force to be reckoned with. His eyes gleamed. We could be that force together again. I laughed. Are you seriously trying to pitch me a partnership? Think about it. Your designs, my connections. Even with this little setback, I still have resources, people who owe me favors. People you've scammed. People who understand business. He lowered his voice. The FBI's case isn't as strong as you think. Eddie's word against mine. Please. But if you drop the charges, help me out of this mess. I can get your designs back. My heart skipped. What? Those contracts I signed? They're not final. One phone call from me and those designs stay yours, exclusively. He smiled. All you have to do is walk out that door and tell them it was all a misunderstanding. For a moment, just a moment, I hesitated. Those designs were my life's work, my original vision. But then I remembered something. You know what I realized, Lucas? Those designs, they're just pieces of paper. But what you really stole was 3 years of my life. My trust, my belief in myself. I stood up. Keep the designs. I'll make better ones. His smile vanished. You're making a mistake. No, I made my mistake when I married you. This is justice. Justice? He laughed harshly. You think you're the hero here? Working with Natasha? She's playing you, just like she played me. What are you talking about? Ask her about the money transfers from last year. Ask her about the offshore account in her grandmother's name. His eyes glittered. Ask her about the real reason she came to you. A knock at the door interrupted us. David poked his head in. Freya, we have a problem. In the hallway, Rachel was trying to calm a hysterical Natasha. He's gone, she sobbed. Eddie's gone. What do you mean, gone? He was supposed to meet with the FBI this morning to sign his official statement. He never showed up. David ran a hand through his hair. His apartment's cleaned out. Phone's dead. Lucas, I breathed. He got to him somehow. That's not all, Rachel said quietly. The safe deposit box documents. The copies we made. They're missing from the hotel safe. My mind raced. Had Lucas planned this? Was this why he seemed so confident? Virgil, I called to the laptop still open on a nearby desk. What does this mean for the case? Without Eddie's testimony and those documents. Virgil sighed. It complicates things. We need something else to corroborate the evidence. I turned to Natasha, Lucas's words echoing in my head. Tell me about the offshore account in your grandmother's name. She went pale. How did you... Lucas told me. Is it true? I can explain, she started, but I cut her off. No more lies. No more games. What aren't you telling me? Tears streamed down her face. The account. It was my safety net. Lucas set it up last year, said it was insurance in case things went wrong. I didn't know where the money came from, I swear. How much? 2 million. Rachel gasped. David swore under his breath. So you came to me, not because you needed help, but because you needed cover, I said coldly. Someone to legitimize your story to the FBI. No, I mean, yes, at first, but then I saw how he'd hurt you too, how many others he'd destroyed. She grabbed my arm. Please, you have to believe me. I want him taken down as much as you do. I shook her off, my mind already racing ahead. David, can you trace Eddie? Maybe. He's not as careful as Lucas. Do it. Rachel, get Virgil everything we have on Natasha's grandmother's account. And you, I turned to Natasha, are going to tell me everything. Every detail you left out, every conversation you had with Lucas about that account. Because right now, it might be the only card we have left to play. Through the interrogation room window, I could see Lucas watching us, that smug smile back on his face. He thought he'd won this round, but he'd forgotten something crucial. I wasn't that naive girl from Brooklyn anymore. And this time, I was ready for war. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of activity. David tracked Eddie's movements to a small town on the Brazilian border. Virgil worked his legal magic, and Natasha's grandmother's account became our smoking gun. The money trail is clear, Virgil explained over video call. Lucas used that account to test his laundering system. Every transaction, every transfer, it all leads back to him. And my grandmother had no idea, Natasha added quietly. He used her name without her knowledge. Which makes it identity theft, Rachel said, on top of everything else. We gathered in my hotel room, preparing for the final confrontation. The FBI had agreed to let us handle the initial meeting with Eddie, hoping he'd be more likely to talk to us than agents. He's staying at a motel just outside the city, David reported, paid cash, using a fake name, but it's definitely him. What makes you so sure he'll help us? Rachel asked. I held up my phone, showing them the email I'd received an hour ago. Because he sent me this, the others crowded around to read it. Eddie's message was brief but clear. I can't live with this anymore. Meet me tonight. I'll tell you everything. It could be a trap, David warned. Of course it's a trap, I replied. But it's also our only chance. The motel was exactly as depressing as I'd expected. A rundown building on the outskirts of town, its neon sign flickering weakly in the dusk. David positioned himself in a car across the street, while Rachel waited in the lobby. Natasha and I approached Eddie's room together. He opened on the first knock, looking worse than I'd ever seen him. Quick, get inside. The room smelled of cheap whiskey and fear. Eddie paced nervously, checking his phone every few seconds. Lucas reached out to you, didn't he? I asked. He's crazy, Eddie muttered. Completely crazy. Threatened my family. Said he'd make sure I went down for everything. We can protect you, Natasha said. The FBI. The FBI can't stop him, Eddie exploded. You don't understand. He's got people everywhere. Judges, bankers, police. Then help us stop him, I pressed. Give us something concrete. Something he can't talk his way out of. Eddie ran his hands through his hair. There's a video. Lucas liked to record his meetings with investors. Said it helped him remember details. But really, he used them as insurance. Blackmail. Where are these videos? On a secure server. I have the access codes. He pulled out a USB drive. Everything's on here. Account numbers, passwords, videos. Enough to put him away for decades. My hand reached for the drive, but something made me hesitate. It was too easy. Eddie was too nervous, too eager. Show us, I said instead. Pull up one of the videos now. He froze. I can't. The files are encrypted. Really? I pulled out my phone, dialing. David now. The door burst open. David entered, followed by 2 FBI agents who'd been waiting nearby. Eddie's face crumpled. He said you'd do this, he whispered. Said you wouldn't trust me. The USB is fake, I said to the agents. Lucas put him up to this, probably hoping we'd take it straight to the FBI, discredit our whole case with false evidence. Eddie slumped onto the bed, defeated. He has my sister. Said he'd hurt her if I didn't help him. Your sister is fine, David said, checking his phone. Our people found her an hour ago. She's safe. Tears rolled down Eddie's cheeks. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Tell us the truth, I said softly. All of it. No more games. And he did. For the next hour, Eddie laid out everything. The real server locations, the actual evidence, the names of Lucas's conspirators. The FBI agents recorded every word. One last thing, Eddie said finally. Lucas isn't planning to stay in custody. He's got an escape planned for the transfer to the airport tomorrow. Someone on the inside. My phone rang. Rachel. Freya, Lucas is gone. He just walked out of the police station. Some paperwork mix-up with his release. I met Natasha's eyes. We'd been played again. He's running, she said. No, I replied, a sudden clarity washing over me. He's not running. He's heading for the servers. Eddie just told us where they are. He knows we'll send the FBI there. So where's he really going? I thought about Lucas, about how he thought, how he planned. The fashion show, the one in Sao Paulo tomorrow, it's where he's planning to sell my designs. How can you be sure? Because he wants me to know I've lost. He wants to hurt me one last time. I turned to the FBI agents. How fast can we get to Sao Paulo? One agent was already on his phone. We can have a team there in 3 hours. Good. I grabbed my bag. Because this time, Lucas isn't just going to face justice, he's going to face me. As we rushed to the waiting cars, I felt strangely calm. The end was coming, one way or another, and this time, I'd make sure Lucas had nowhere left to run. The Sao Paulo Fashion Week venue buzzed with pre-show energy. Backstage, models rushed between racks of clothing, my stolen designs, now branded with another label. Lucas had to be here somewhere. Security's in position, David murmured through my earpiece. All exits covered. The FBI team is 5 minutes out, Rachel added. I moved through the chaos, Natasha close behind. She'd insisted on coming, saying she owed me this much at least. A flash of familiar silver hair caught my eye. Lucas, talking to a group of buyers. Ladies and gentlemen, he was saying, these designs represent a bold new direction. Funny, I called out, loud enough to turn heads. They look like my old direction to me. Lucas spun around. For a split second, genuine shock crossed his face before his smooth mask slipped back into place. Freya, I was hoping you'd come. He smiled at the confused buyers. My ex-wife, and still my greatest inspiration. Save it. I held up my phone, showing him the live feed from the server facility where the FBI was currently collecting his videos. It's over, Lucas. Eddie told us everything. Eddie talks too much. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Walk away now. You can still salvage something from this. Like my dignity, my reputation, the years you stole from me. I made you stronger, he hissed. Everything you are today. It's because of me. No, I said firmly. Everything I am today is because I survived you. His eyes darted around, looking for escape routes. The buyers had backed away, sensing the tension. Security guards were moving closer. You really want to do this here? He asked. In front of everyone. Think about the scandal. Actually, Natasha stepped forward, phone raised. That's exactly what we want. We're live streaming, by the way, to every fashion blog and industry insider who follows me. Lucas lunged for her phone, but I was ready. I grabbed his arm, using his momentum to spin him around. He stumbled into a clothing rack, sending my designs crashing to the floor. Those designs, he spat, scrambling up, they were wasted on you. You never understood the business side, the compromises needed. The only thing I didn't understand was how I ever loved someone like you. FBI agents burst through the doors, led by David. Lucas took one look and ran, shoving past models and photographers. He made it halfway to the emergency exit before Natasha stuck out her foot, sending him sprawling. That's for making me believe I was special, she said as agents handcuffed him. I walked over to where he lay, face pressed against the floor. You know what the funny thing is, Lucas? These designs you stole, they're not even my best work. They're my past, the work of a woman who was afraid to trust her own voice. But now, I gestured to the chaos around us, the dozens of phones recording everything. Now everyone knows exactly who you are, and that's worth more than any design. This isn't over, he growled as agents pulled him up. Actually, it is. Rachel appeared with a tablet. The videos are already online. Every scam, every lie, every manipulation. It's all public now. Your business contacts are falling over themselves to cooperate with the FBI. As they led Lucas away, Natasha touched my arm. I really am sorry for everything. I know, I looked at her. What will you do now? Testify. Make things right. Then maybe start over. There's this small modeling agency in Milan, focuses on ethical fashion. Send me their details, I said. I might have some designs that would work for them. The venue was clearing out, the show cancelled amid the chaos. I walked to where my designs lay scattered on the floor. Picking up a dress, I felt nothing but peace. These pieces were my history, but they weren't my future. "Ready to go?" Rachel asked softly. "Almost." I pulled out my phone and dialed Cynthia's number. "Cynthia, how would you feel about a last-minute addition to New York Fashion Week? I have some new designs in mind. Something completely different." Her laugh crackled through the speaker. "Darling, after the show you just put on in São Paulo, you can have any slot you want." Outside, the São Paulo sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant colors. David was coordinating with the FBI. Rachel was already fielding press calls, and Natasha was giving her statement to the authorities. Everything had changed, yet I felt lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed with a message from Virgil. "Justice looks good on you." I smiled, watching Lucas being placed in an FBI vehicle. He'd wanted to be the author of my story, to write my future according to his plans. Instead, he'd become nothing more than a chapter in my past. A reminder that sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. The next chapter, that was mine to write, and I already had the perfect design in mind.
The text message from my daughter made my hands shake. "Mom, I can't take it anymore. They said I'm going to hell." My name is Juliana, and until 6 months ago, I thought I was doing okay as a single mom. Sure, the divorce 3 years back had been messy, but Lexi and I had found our rhythm. Then everything changed when she came out to her father. I was in the middle of organizing our annual Pride rally when Lexi called me sobbing. "Dad and Vanessa won't let me wear what I want to school," she choked out. "They made me change 3 times this morning. Said I look too gay." My blood boiled. "I'm coming to pick you up right now." "No, Mom, please. Dad will just get angrier." I gripped my phone tighter. "Put him on." "Juliana," Greg's voice dripped with condescension. "Don't start. We're just trying to protect her from making choices she'll regret." "Choices? Like being herself?" She's confused. "And your activism isn't helping." I heard Vanessa in the background, her lawyer voice sharp and clear. "Greg, don't engage. We've discussed this. My brother Glenn had warned me this would happen. The second Greg married that corporate shark," he'd said, "I knew they'd try to control everything." Later that evening, I sat with Lexi on our worn leather couch, her head on my shoulder as she showed me the messages they'd been sending her. Each one felt like a knife to my heart. "God doesn't make mistakes," Vanessa had written. "You're just going through a phase." "Think about your future," Greg texted. "No good college will want someone who presents themselves like this." "Mom?" Lexi's voice was small. "Why do they hate who I am?" I pulled her closer. "They don't hate you, baby. They hate what they don't understand. And that's their problem, not yours." My phone buzzed. It was Patricia, my best friend and fellow activist. "Tell me you've seen the Facebook post," she said when I answered. "What post?" "Greg's, about praying for confused youth. He basically outed Lexi to their entire church community." I felt the rage rise in my chest. "He did what?" "I've got screenshots. And Juliana? It gets worse. Vanessa commented about seeking intervention for Lexi." I looked at my daughter, now curled up with her sketchbook, drawing the fierce, beautiful characters that helped her escape. She was wearing the rainbow bracelet I'd given her, though she had to hide it at her father's house. "Patricia, I need a favor. Can you recommend a good family lawyer?" "Already on it. Remember Maria from the center? Her partner specializes in LGBTQ+ family law. I'll send you her number." That night, after Lexi went to bed, I sat at my kitchen table with a glass of wine, staring at old family photos on my phone. There was one from just 3 years ago, Greg, Lexi, and me at her middle school graduation. We were all smiling. It looked so normal, so perfect. The next photo was from last month's Pride March. Lexi, surrounded by our chosen family, beaming in her handmade Love is Love shirt. That was real happiness. That was my daughter, finally free to be herself. My brother Glenn called just as I was about to head to bed. "You okay, sis?" "No," I admitted. "I'm angry and scared." "What are you going to do about it?" I thought about Lexi's tears, about Greg's public shaming, about Vanessa's cold legal threats. "I'm going to fight," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "I'm filing for full custody." "It'll get ugly," Glenn warned. "Greg won't back down easily, and Vanessa knows every legal trick in the book." "I don't care. They're hurting my baby. This ends now." "Then you better be ready for war," Glenn said, "because they'll use everything against you. Your activism, your lifestyle, your friends. Let them try." I opened my laptop and started typing an email to the lawyer Patricia recommended. "Some things are worth fighting for." As I wrote, another text from Lexi lit up my phone. "Mom, can you come check on me? Had a nightmare." I found her sitting up in bed, hugging her knees. "Same dream?" She nodded. "The one where Dad locks me in my room until I turn normal." I sat on her bed, pulling her into a fierce hug. "Listen to me, Lexi. You are normal. You are perfect exactly as you are. And I promise you, I will never let anyone lock away who you are. Even Dad? Especially Dad." As I held her, I knew tomorrow would bring the start of the biggest battle of my life. But looking at my daughter, strong, beautiful, and finally beginning to understand who she was, I knew it was a battle I couldn't afford to lose. The courthouse lobby felt colder than it should have for a summer morning. Lexi's hand trembled in mine as our lawyer, Diana, reviewed our strategy one last time. "Remember," Diana said, straightening her blazer, "let me do most of the talking. Judge Rivera is fair, but she's traditional. We need to present this carefully." Glenn appeared with coffee cups for everyone. "Thought we could use some liquid courage." "Thanks," I managed, though my stomach was too knotted to drink. I watched the entrance, knowing any minute Greg and Vanessa would walk through those doors. "Mom?" Lexi whispered. "What if—" The clicking of expensive heels cut her off. Vanessa strode in, Greg trailing behind her like an obedient shadow. Her designer suit probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Juliana," Vanessa nodded curtly. "I hope you realize this is completely unnecessary. We could have handled this privately." "Like how you privately posted about my daughter on Facebook?" I shot back. Diana touched my arm. "Not here." Greg wouldn't even look at Lexi. He stood examining his phone as if his daughter wasn't right there, wearing her heart on her sleeve and a pride pin on her backpack. "All rise," the bailiff called, and we filed into the courtroom. Judge Rivera looked exactly as Patricia had described, stern, shrewd, with reading glasses perched on her nose like tiny watchtowers. "Your Honor," Vanessa began, every inch the polished attorney. "This is a simple case of parental alienation. Ms. Wise has been encouraging rebellious behavior." "Objection," Diana interrupted. "Counsel is characterizing sexual orientation as rebellion." "Sustained," Judge Rivera said. "Ms. Lee, choose your words more carefully." I watched Lexi from the corner of my eye. She sat straight-backed, chin up, but I could see her fingers working anxiously at the edge of her sleeve. The morning dragged on through preliminary motions. Vanessa threw around terms like undue influence and psychological manipulation. Diana countered with documentation of Greg's social media posts and text messages. During a brief recess, Glenn pulled me aside. "You're doing great, sis. But there's something you should know. I overheard Vanessa on her phone earlier. Something about bringing in a conversion therapy expert as a witness." My stomach lurched. They wouldn't dare. They would, and they are. Back in the courtroom, Lexi's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I saw all color drain from her face. "What is it?" I whispered. She showed me the screen. Greg had texted, "Not too late to drop this. Think about what this will do to your college applications, to your future, to our family name." Diana noticed Lexi's distress and requested another brief recess. In the hallway, Lexi finally broke down. "I can't do this," she sobbed. "Maybe they're right. Maybe I should just pretend." Patricia, who had been sitting quietly in the gallery for support, stepped forward. "Hey, kiddo. Remember what you told me at the youth center last week? About being tired of living in other people's shadows?" Lexi nodded. "That girl who stood up and shared her story with 20 other scared teens? That's who you are, not what they want you to be." I watched my daughter straighten her shoulders, wiping tears with the back of her hand. "You're right. When we returned, Judge Rivera had a surprise. "I'd like to speak with Lexi, alone." My heart stopped. Diana squeezed my hand. "This is good," she whispered. "Judge Rivera wants to hear her voice." As Lexi followed the judge to her chambers, Greg finally spoke up. "This is ridiculous. She's a child. She doesn't know what she wants." "She knows exactly who she is," I snapped. "You're the one who can't see it." "Order," the bailiff warned. 20 minutes later, Lexi emerged from the judge's chambers. She was smiling, actually smiling, for the first time that day. Judge Rivera followed, her expression unreadable. "We'll reconvene tomorrow morning. In the meantime," she fixed Greg and Vanessa with a stern look, "all parties are to refrain from any communication with the minor. And Mr. Valdez, delete that social media post immediately." As we gathered our things, Lexi's phone buzzed again. Her face went pale. "What now?" I asked. "It's from Vanessa," she whispered. She says she has proof that you've been taking me to inappropriate events and exposing me to dangerous influences." Glenn read the message over her shoulder and swore under his breath. "They're going after your activism, Jules. They're going to try to paint you as an unfit mother." Diana overheard and stepped closer. "Let them try. We have something they don't." "What's that?" I asked. "The truth," she said simply. "And tomorrow, we're going to make sure everyone hears it." Walking out of the courthouse, I held Lexi close. The battle was far from over, but watching her walk with her head high, pride pin catching the sunlight, I knew we'd already won something precious, her right to be herself. "Mom," she said as we reached the car, "I'm not afraid anymore." Neither was I. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now, this was enough. The mediator's office felt like neutral ground, all beige walls and generic artwork. I arrived early, watching Vanessa through the glass door as she paced the hallway, phone pressed to her ear. "Ready?" Diana asked, arranging her files on the conference table. "As I'll ever be." Vanessa entered alone. "Greg sends his regrets. He had an unavoidable business meeting." "How convenient," I muttered. The mediator, a silver-haired woman named Rachel, began with the usual pleasantries. But something was off about Vanessa today. The sharp edges of her corporate armor seemed dulled, her usual confidence cracked. "Before we start," Vanessa said, "I'd like to speak with Juliana, privately." Diana raised an eyebrow. "I advise against—" "It's fine," I interrupted. "Let's hear what she has to say." Rachel directed us to a smaller room down the hall. As soon as the door closed, Vanessa's shoulders slumped. "You have no idea what you're doing," she said quietly. "The people you're up against—" "You mean you and Greg?" "No." She ran a hand through her perfectly styled hair. "The church, the community, the donors who fund Greg's business, they're already talking about making an example of your case." "Is that supposed to scare me?" "It should." She turned to face me. "Did you know I had a girlfriend in college?" The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. I studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. "What?" "Her name was Sarah. We were together for 2 years, then my father found out." She laughed bitterly. "He was a lot like Greg, actually. Traditional, uncompromising." "What happened?" "What do you think? I chose my career, my family, the path of least resistance." She pulled out her phone, scrolled through it. "Here." The photo showed a younger Vanessa, arm around a smiling woman with wild red hair. They looked happy, in love. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I need you to understand what you're risking. These people, they don't just disagree with you, they'll destroy you, your reputation, your work, everything." "Like they destroyed you?" Her face hardened. "I made my choice. And now you're helping Greg make the same choice for Lexi?" "I'm trying to protect her." "By what? Teaching her to hate herself? To hide who she is?" Vanessa turned away, but not before I caught the glimmer of tears. "You don't understand the pressure Greg's under. His investors are threatening to pull out. The church board is talking about intervention programs." My phone buzzed. A text from Glenn. "Where are you? Diana needs to show you something urgent." "We should get back," I said. "Wait." Vanessa grabbed my arm. There's something else you need to know. About Greg's past. About why he's so afraid of... The door opened. Rachel stood there looking concerned. Everything all right? Fine. Vanessa straightened, mask sliding back into place. We're done here. Back in the main room, Diana was reviewing a document with Glenn. Her expression made my stomach drop. What's wrong? They filed a motion, Glenn said. They're requesting psychological evaluations for both you and Lexi. They can't do that. They can, Diana said grimly. And there's more. They're subpoenaing records from the LGBTQ+ Center. Every event Lexi attended, every counseling session. My phone buzzed again. A message from Patricia. SOS. Lexi just called me crying. Someone at school showed her the church's newsletter. They're using her story as a cautionary tale. I have to go, I said, gathering my things. My daughter needs me. Vanessa caught my eye as I headed for the door. For a moment, I saw that college girl again, the one who loved freely before the world taught her not to. Juliana, she called after me, whatever you hear about Greg in the next few days, remember I tried to warn you. I found Lexi at Patricia's house, curled up on the couch with a cup of tea. Patricia had already printed out the newsletter. There, in black and white, was a thinly veiled account of our family's moral crisis. They didn't use my name, Lexi said hollowly, but everyone knows it's me. I sat beside her, reading the hateful words through blurring eyes. We can fight this. Add it to the lawsuit. That's not all, Patricia said. Show her, Lexi. Lexi pulled up her phone, opened Instagram. Dozens of messages from classmates, some supportive, others cruel. But one stood out from a private account. Ask your stepmom about Sarah. Ask her what happens to girls who don't follow the rules. I thought of Vanessa's photo, of her unfinished warning about Greg's past. Something bigger was unfolding here, something beyond our custody battle. Mom, Lexi's voice was small. What are we going to do? I pulled her close, mind racing. We're going to find out the truth, all of it, and then we're going to make sure everyone else knows it too. Because now I understood, this wasn't just about custody anymore. This was about breaking a cycle of silence that had already claimed too many victims. Sarah Mitchell, Patricia announced, dropping a stack of printouts on my kitchen table. Class of 2003, same university as Vanessa, and look what I found in the campus newspaper archives. The grainy photo showed a student protest. In the front row, holding a Love Wins banner, stood Sarah, Vanessa's former girlfriend, next to a familiar face. Is that... I leaned closer. Greg? Yep, your ex-husband was quite the activist back then. Environmental causes, LGBTQ+ rights, you name it. Glenn whistled low. Well, someone had quite the change of heart. My phone lit up with a text from Diana. Meeting in 20, bringing someone you need to meet. At Diana's office, we found her with a woman about my age, dressed in business casual with short gray hair. This is Margaret, Diana said. She used to work for Greg's father. Margaret's hands fidgeted with her coffee cup. I've been following your case. When I saw Greg's name, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. What do you mean? I was there when Greg's father caught him with his boyfriend. The room went dead silent. His what? I barely recognized my own voice. Senior year of college, his father walked in on Greg and James, that was his name, in Greg's dorm room. The next day, James disappeared, transferred schools. Greg spent the summer at some spiritual retreat. When he came back, he was different, I finished, remembering how Greg had once told me he'd had a religious awakening in college. His father threatened to cut him off completely. Not just money, family, connections, everything. Greg chose security over love, just like Vanessa did. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Storage Unit 247, Riverside Complex, code 1103, go alone. That's Vanessa's handwriting, Glenn said, looking over my shoulder. Could be a trap. Or could be exactly what we need, Diana mused. Margaret, would you be willing to testify about what you saw? Margaret nodded. It's time someone stood up to the Valdez family's bullying. An hour later, I stood before Storage Unit 247, heart pounding. The code worked. Inside, a single cardboard box sat on a metal shelf. On top, a note, "The truth sets us free, or so they say." The box contained photos, letters, newspaper clippings. Greg at Pride rallies, Greg and James, young and in love, Vanessa's college journals, and something else, financial records showing massive donations from Greg's father to conversion therapy programs. My phone rang. Patricia. "Jules, you need to get to the youth center, now. Lexi's here and she's not okay." I found my daughter sitting with Patricia in the center's art room, tears streaming down her face. "Dad came to school," she choked out. "He made a scene in front of everyone." "What happened?" "He saw my art project, the one about family acceptance. He just lost it. Started yelling about how I was embarrassing him, destroying our family's reputation." "There's video," Patricia said quietly, showing me her phone. The footage was shaky but clear. Greg, red-faced, tearing down Lexi's artwork while students watched in horror. His words carried clearly, "No daughter of mine will promote this lifestyle." "The principal called him in," Lexi continued. "That's when he said he was sending me to this special program, to fix me." My blood ran cold, remembering the financial records I'd just found. Over my dead body. Glenn arrived minutes later with Diana. As they reviewed the video, I held Lexi, whispering promises I swore I'd keep. "This changes everything," Diana said. "Combined with what Margaret told us, and these documents from Vanessa, we can prove a pattern of psychological abuse." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Vanessa. "Greg knows I gave you access to the storage unit. He's on his way to destroy everything. Whatever you found, I hope it was worth it. Glenn, drive to the storage unit. Now, save what you can. On it." Diana was already typing on her laptop. "I'm filing for an emergency hearing. This ends now." Lexi touched the torn remains of her artwork. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything, baby." "Why do people hate themselves so much that they hurt others?" I thought of Greg and Vanessa, of all the lives twisted by fear and shame. Sometimes it's easier to break others than to face what's broken inside yourself. Patricia squeezed Lexi's shoulder. "But you're braver than that. You're choosing truth over comfort." My phone lit up with a photo from Glenn. Greg's car at the storage facility, Vanessa trying to block his path to the unit. "It's all coming to a head," Diana said. "Tomorrow's hearing will be explosive. Are you ready?" I looked at my daughter, strong, resilient, refusing to hide who she was, and knew the answer. They wanted a war over family values? Let's show them what real family values look like. Because tomorrow, the truth wouldn't just set us free. It would shatter the chains that had bound too many hearts for far too long. The emergency hearing turned the courthouse into a circus. News vans lined the street, and a small crowd of protesters gathered outside, some with rainbow flags, others with religious signs. "Ignore them," Diana advised as we hurried up the steps. "Focus on what matters." Inside, Glenn was waiting with Margaret and Sarah. Vanessa's ex-girlfriend had flown in overnight after Glenn tracked her down. "Where's Vanessa?" I asked, scanning the crowded hallway. "Haven't seen her," Glenn replied. "But Greg's inside with his father. They brought reinforcements, some big-shot lawyer from the church's legal team." Judge Rivera's courtroom was packed. Greg sat at the defendant's table, his father's hand firmly on his shoulder like a puppet master. The empty chair beside him spoke volumes. "All rise." Judge Rivera studied the room over her glasses. "I understand we have new evidence warranting this emergency session." Diana stood. "Yes, Your Honor. We have documentation of a systematic pattern of emotional abuse, including video evidence from yesterday's incident at the school." "Objection," Greg's new lawyer shot up. "This is a private family matter," which became public when Mr. Valdez chose to make a scene in a school hallway, Diana countered. "We have multiple witness statements, including from faculty members." The video played on the courtroom screens. Watching Greg tear down Lexi's artwork again, hearing his venomous words, made my stomach turn. But it was his father's reaction that caught my attention. A small, satisfied smile. "Furthermore," Diana continued, We have evidence that Mr. Valdez's behavior is driven by his own suppressed history and family pressure. Greg's face went white. His father's hand tightened visibly on his shoulder. The courtroom doors burst open. Vanessa strode in, makeup smeared, designer suit wrinkled. "Your Honor," she announced, "I need to make a statement." "Ms. Lee," Judge Rivera warned, "you're late and out of order." "Please!" Vanessa's voice cracked. "This has to stop." Greg half rose. "Vanessa, don't—" "I've spent 20 years hiding who I am," she continued, ignoring him. "I've helped perpetuate the same system that almost destroyed me. And now," she looked at Lexi, "I'm watching it try to destroy another young life." Greg's father stood up. "This is outrageous. Your Honor." "Sit down," Judge Rivera ordered. "Ms. Lee, continue." Vanessa pulled out her phone. "I have recordings, conversations between Greg's father and church officials, planning to send Lexi to the same conversion program they sent Greg to in college. The same program that drove 3 teenagers to suicide last year." The courtroom erupted. Judge Rivera banged her gavel repeatedly. "That's a lie," Greg's father shouted. "No," a quiet voice said. "It's not." Everyone turned. Margaret stood up from her seat in the gallery. "I worked for you for 15 years, she said to Greg's father. "I watched you break your son. I watched you threaten and manipulate anyone who didn't fit your perfect image. I kept quiet then. I won't anymore." Diana handed the judge a thick folder. "Financial records, Your Honor, proving the connection between Mr. Valdez Sr. and these illegal conversion programs." Greg seemed to collapse in on himself. "Dad?" he whispered. "You promised you'd never—" "Not to Lexi." "You weak, pathetic," his father started, but Judge Rivera's gavel cut him off. "That's enough. Mr. Valdez Sr., you will remove yourself from my courtroom immediately. Officers, please escort him out." As security led Greg's father away, Sarah stepped forward. "Your Honor, I'd like to testify about what these programs really do to young people." The next hour was devastating. Sarah and others shared their stories of trauma and abuse. Greg sat silent, tears streaming down his face. Vanessa moved to sit beside him, her own mask finally shattered. "Mom," Lexi whispered beside me. "Can I speak?" I squeezed her hand. "Are you sure?" She nodded, standing before I could answer. "Your Honor, I'd like to say something to my dad." Judge Rivera nodded gently. "Go ahead, Lexi." Lexi turned to face Greg. "Dad, I love you, but I won't let you or anyone else make me hate myself. I won't disappear. I won't change. And if you can't accept me as I am, then maybe you need to remember who you used to be, the person who stood up for love before fear won." Greg covered his face with his hands, shoulders shaking. "Given the evidence presented," Judge Rivera announced, "I'm granting immediate full custody to Juliana, with supervised visitation rights for Mr. Valdez contingent upon completion of LGBTQ+ sensitivity training and family counseling." As people began filing out, Greg approached us slowly, his father's influence visibly lifting from his shoulders. "Juliana," he said softly, "I'm so sorry. To both of you. I forgot who I was, who I could be." "It's not me you need to apologize to," I replied, looking at our daughter. Lexi stood tall, pride pin glinting on her jacket, finally free to be herself. The healing would take time, but as we left the courthouse, stepping into the sunlight past the dispersing crowds, I knew something fundamental had shifted. Not just for our family, but for every family trapped in the shadows of fear and shame. The youth center buzzed with nervous energy. 2 weeks after the emergency hearing, Lexi was finally ready to tell her story, not just to the court, but to the world. "You don't have to do this," I reminded her, as she adjusted her microphone. Local news cameras were setting up in the back of the room. "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "For all the kids who can't speak up yet." Patricia had organized the press conference perfectly. Rainbow flags hung alongside hand-painted signs reading, "Love wins," and "Family means everyone." The room was packed with supporters, including several of Lexi's classmates. 5 minutes, Glenn called out, checking his watch. The back door opened. Greg slipped in quietly, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes instead of his usual business suit. Vanessa followed, carrying a small rainbow flag. "Is it okay that they're here?" Patricia whispered to me. Before I could answer, Lexi walked over to them. "You came." Greg nodded, clearing his throat. I wanted to hear what you have to say. Really hear it this time." Diana appeared at my elbow. "Heads up! Greg's father just pulled up outside with some church protesters." "Should we cancel?" I asked, watching Lexi. "No," she said, overhearing. "Let them come. Let them hear the truth, too." The cameras started rolling. Lexi stepped up to the podium, hands steady as she unfolded her prepared speech. But instead of reading it, she set it aside. "My name is Lexi," she began, "and this is my story. Not the version my grandfather wanted to tell. Not the cautionary tale my father's church tried to make it. My real story." The room fell silent. 2 months ago, my father ripped down my artwork because it showed 2 girls holding hands. He was afraid, not of the art, but of what it revealed about me, about him, about the walls we build to hide our truths. Greg shifted in his seat, but didn't look away. "I watched my stepmother bury who she was for years. I watched my father forget the person he used to be. Someone who fought for justice, who believed in love. And I decided I wouldn't do the same." Outside, we could hear the protesters starting to chant. Lexi raised her voice slightly. "To every kid sitting in their room right now, afraid to tell their parents who they are, you're not alone. To every parent choosing between their child's truth and their community's approval, choose your child. Always choose your child." Tears streamed down Vanessa's face. Greg reached for her hand. "My grandfather tried to send me to a place that breaks people, makes them hate themselves. But hate isn't stronger than love. Fear isn't stronger than truth." The back doors burst open. Greg's father stood there, face red with anger. "This is an abomination." Security moved to intercept him, but Lexi held up her hand. "No, let him stay. He needs to hear this most of all." Her grandfather froze, caught off guard by her calm authority. "You tried to break your own son," Lexi continued, looking directly at him. "You almost succeeded. But love is stronger than your fear. Truth is stronger than your shame. And I'm stronger than your hatred." "How dare you?" he started. "No." Greg stood up suddenly. "How dare you, Dad? How dare you try to do to my daughter what you did to me?" The room erupted in applause. News cameras swiveled between Greg and his father. "You're all sick," the older man spat, but his voice wavered. "The only sickness here," Vanessa said clearly, "is the poison of intolerance you've been spreading for decades." Security finally escorted him out. Lexi waited for quiet before continuing. "Today, I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for Sarah, who lost years of her life to fear, for my stepmother, who's finally learning to be herself again, for my father, who's choosing love over fear, even though it's hard." Greg wiped his eyes openly now. "But mostly, I'm speaking for every kid who's been told they need to be fixed. You don't. You're not broken. You're beautiful and brave and worthy of love exactly as you are." The room exploded in cheers. Patricia was sobbing openly. Glenn whistled and clapped. "One last thing," Lexi said. "To the people who run these conversion programs, who profit from pain and shame, we're coming for you. With truth, with love, and with the law. Your time is over." As reporters began shouting questions, Greg made his way to the podium. Without a word, he hugged Lexi tightly. "I'm so proud of you," he whispered, loud enough for the microphone to catch. "So proud of who you are." Vanessa joined them, then me. Cameras flashed as we stood together, not a broken family, but a healing one. Later, as we cleaned up the center, Lexi found her grandfather's abandoned protest sign. She turned it over and wrote in bold letters, "Love wins." "What should we do with it?" she asked. "Keep it," I said, as a reminder that truth always comes out, that love always wins in the end. She smiled, pinning it to the wall alongside her restored artwork. "Even when it takes 3 generations?" "Especially then. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't just in speaking your truth, but in helping others find the courage to speak theirs too." The final hearing felt different from all the others. Maybe it was the sunlight streaming through the courthouse windows, or maybe it was the crowd of supporters filling every bench. Students, parents and activists wearing rainbow pins matching Lexi's. Nervous? Glenn asked, adjusting his tie. Not anymore, I replied, watching Greg and Vanessa enter together. They'd both resigned from the church board yesterday, a decision that had made headlines. Judge Rivera called the session to order. Before we proceed, I understand Ms. Lee has a statement? Vanessa stood, her designer suit replaced by a simple blazer and pants. Yes, Your Honor. I need to confess something. The room hushed. 10 years ago, I was part of the legal team that helped cover up 3 suicide attempts at New Dawn Conversion Center. I drafted the non-disclosure agreements. I threatened the families with lawsuits if they spoke out. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. I did it because I was afraid, because I'd been through a program like that myself, and fear becomes a habit, but not anymore. She pulled out a thick folder. These are all the documents, every case, every cover-up, every payment. Greg's father, sitting in the back row, stood up. This is a violation of attorney-client privilege. Actually, Diana interjected, since these documents reveal ongoing criminal activity, they're exempt from privilege. Mr. Valdez Sr., Judge Rivera warned, one more outburst and you'll be removed. Again. Vanessa continued, her voice stronger. I'm prepared to testify about everything I witnessed, about how these programs operate, how they target vulnerable families, how they destroy young lives in the name of healing. 2 police officers entered the courtroom quietly, taking positions near the exits. Furthermore, Vanessa pulled out her phone. I have recorded conversations with board members discussing how to hide the death of a 16-year-old participant last summer. The room erupted. Greg's father lunged forward, but security intercepted him. You'll regret this, he shouted as they led him away. All of you. No, Greg stood up. We regret staying silent for so long. Judge Rivera banged her gavel. Order. Ms. Lee, are you prepared to face the legal consequences of your actions? Yes, Your Honor. Whatever it takes to make this right. Very well. Bailiff, please take Ms. Lee's statement for the record. She turned to Greg. Mr. Valdez, you have something to add? Greg approached the bench, pulling out an envelope. My resignation from my father's company and documentation of every donation they made to conversion programs. I can't undo the past, but I can help prevent more damage. From her seat beside me, Lexi squeezed my hand. The court acknowledges these submissions, Judge Rivera said. Now regarding the custody arrangement— Wait! A voice called from the back. Sarah stood up. There's more. She walked forward, carrying a laptop. I've been working with a survivors network. We have testimonies from over 300 people who went through these programs. Videos, journals, medical records, everything. Judge Rivera studied the evidence, her expression grave. This goes far beyond a custody case. That's the point, Your Honor, Diana said. This case exposed a system of abuse that's destroyed countless lives. We're asking not just for custody reform, but for criminal investigation into these facilities. The judge nodded slowly. I agree. She turned to the court reporter. Contact the district attorney's office immediately and get me the attorney general on the phone. The next hour passed in a blur of legal terminology and procedural details. But one moment stood crystal clear. Judge Rivera looking directly at Lexi. Young lady, your courage started this. Would you like to say anything before I make my final ruling? Lexi walked to the podium, tall and confident. Just this. No one should have to choose between their family and their truth. And no one should profit from teaching children to hate themselves. The courtroom burst into applause. Judge Rivera didn't try to stop it. In light of all evidence presented, she announced, I'm not only confirming full custody to Juliana, but I'm issuing an immediate injunction against all conversion therapy programs in this jurisdiction. Furthermore, I'm recommending a full federal investigation into these facilities nationwide. More applause, tears, hugs. Mom! Lexi threw herself into my arms. We did it! Greg joined us, looking both relieved and haunted. I'm so sorry it took me so long to stand up to him. You did it when it mattered most, Lexi said, hugging him too. Vanessa approached more hesitantly. They're taking my statement now. I might face disbarment, maybe worse. You did the right thing, I told her. Finally, she smiled sadly. Better late than never. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us, but it was the group of teenagers wearing rainbow pins who caught Lexi's attention. Thank you, one girl said, crying. My parents were talking about sending me to New Dawn next month. Now they can't. Lexi hugged her tight. You're perfect exactly as you are. Glenn appeared with Patricia, both grinning. Ready to go? The youth center's throwing a celebration. As we walked down the courthouse steps, past the news vans and gathered crowd, I saw Greg's father being led to a police car in handcuffs. He looked small now, his power stripped away by truth. Mom? Lexi linked her arm through mine. What happens next? I looked at our unlikely alliance. Greg, Vanessa, Sarah, all the survivors and supporters gathered around us. Now, I said, we make sure this never happens to another child again. Because sometimes justice isn't just about winning a case. Sometimes it's about changing the world. The autumn breeze carried the sound of laughter from the youth center's garden, where Lexi and her friends were hanging pride flags for the grand reopening. The building had doubled in size, funded by the settlement money from the conversion therapy lawsuit. Need any help? Greg called from the sidewalk, carrying a box of supplies. Dad, you came! Lexi rushed to hug him. She was wearing the Love Wins t-shirt she'd designed for the center's new logo. Wouldn't miss it, he smiled, setting down the box. Though I wasn't sure I'd be welcome. Everyone who chooses love over hate is welcome here, Patricia said, emerging from the building. Those are the new rules. Inside, volunteers arranged chairs for the evening's support group meeting. Sarah was setting up a display of survivor stories, photos, letters, and artwork from across the country. The wall behind her showcased newspaper headlines about the nationwide investigation and subsequent closures of conversion programs. Look what came, Glenn announced, waving a letter. The governor signed the ban into law this morning. No more conversion therapy in our state, ever. Applause erupted. Vanessa, who'd been organizing resource pamphlets, wiped away tears. You okay? I asked her. Better than okay. She straightened her community counselor badge. After surrendering her law license, she'd found her true calling helping LGBTQ+ youth. For the first time in my life, I feel free. The door chimed. A teenage boy entered hesitantly, his father hovering behind him. Is this where the parent support group meets? The father asked. Right this way. Greg stepped forward. I lead that group now. First time? The man nodded. My son just came out. I don't want to make the same mistakes my father made, but I don't know where to start. Start by listening, Greg said gently. That's what I learned the hard way. As they talked, Lexi tugged my sleeve. Mom, come see what we did with the art room. The formerly plain space had been transformed. Rainbow-painted walls displayed artwork from local LGBTQ+ youth. In the center stood Lexi's restored piece from school, the one Greg had torn down, now framed and spotlighted. Beautiful, isn't it? Sarah appeared beside us. The truth always finds its way into the light. Speaking of truth, Lexi said, Grandpa sent another letter from prison. My stomach tightened. What did he want? To apologize, he says, but also to justify everything he did. She pulled out the envelope. I'm not going to read it. Some people choose hate until the end. And that's their loss, I hugged her close. The center filled with people as evening approached. Teenagers, parents, allies, all gathering for the reopening ceremony. Even Judge Rivera came, wearing a rainbow pin on her robes. Before we cut the ribbon, Patricia announced, someone has a few words to share. Lexi took the microphone, looking out at the crowd. So different from the scared girl who'd texted me about going to hell just months ago. When I was little, I thought family meant blood. Then I thought it meant whoever shared your last name. Now I know. Family means people who love you exactly as you are. She gestured around the room. Look at us. Former enemies turned allies. Strangers turned supporters. People who chose love over fear, truth over comfort, courage over silence. That's family. Greg stood with Vanessa, both nodding through tears. This center isn't just a building. It's a promise. A promise that no child will face rejection alone. No parent will struggle without support. No one will have to choose between being loved and being themselves. The crowd cheered. In the back, I saw the teenage boy lean against his father, who wrapped an arm around him. My grandfather tried to break our family with hate. Instead, he showed us how to build a stronger one with love. So this ribbon cutting isn't just opening a building, it's opening our hearts. To truth, to healing, to hope. As Lexi cut the rainbow ribbon, the room erupted in celebration. Greg hugged her tight, whispering something that made her laugh. Vanessa and Sarah stood hand in hand, their past pain transformed into purpose. Glenn appeared with cake, Patricia started the music, and the center came alive with joy. Mom, Lexi found me in the crowd. Thank you for fighting for me. For us. Always, I promised. And Mom? I've been thinking, maybe we should write our story, help other families find their way through the dark. I watched Greg leading his support group, Vanessa counseling a nervous parent, Sarah sharing hope with survivors. All the broken pieces of our journey had formed something beautiful. You're right, I said. Stories have power. They can break chains, open hearts, change lives. Like ours did? Like ours continues to do. Because that's the thing about truth. It doesn't just set you free. It shows others the way to freedom too. And sometimes, the families we build from the ashes of what was lost shine brighter than the ones we were born into. That's not just justice. That's magic.